And we're live. Ivor, thanks for coming out and joining me here.
No bother at all.
Good friend of mine, Dave Webster, a guy I'm just actually back from camping on the top of a mountain with, believe it or not,
Oh, lovely.
another podcast to come, mentioned you to me before. He'd read your blog, which I read only today,
Right.
which basically gives the gist of your experience in the Amazon jungle doing ayahuasca.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Yeah, over in Peru, just in the Amazon jungle, yeah.
In Peru, okay.
Yeah, in Peru, yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about that? How the hell you ended up over there? I know it says in the blog that, and forgive me if I'll be paraphrasing this, correct me if I'm wrong, but it says in the blog that basically you're a bit disillusioned with life and with the trappings of kind of modern society and our culture and whatever else, and you were constantly kind of searching for something else, and you ended up going on this trip.
Yeah, I guess that's how it happened, I suppose. I was I wouldn't like people to think that I was unhappy with life. I was actually very happy with life. I was living over in Australia at the time. I was working in a good job, all of that kind of stuff. So things were going really well. But I always kind of seemed to have this, I don't know, this question and this constant question of, what's it all about really? What is life all about? Because it seemed like it couldn't be the material side of things that was what life seemed to be to me. Um, I guess I was looking around. There seems to be an awful lot of suffering in the world. There seems to be a lot of people kind of who are disillusioned with things, and I guess it was more society that I became a little bit disillusioned with, rather than my own life, to be honest. And I suppose again through different podcasts and stuff like that, I began to hear about ayahuasca, and I began to hear about kind of the experiences that people were having out there in the jungle, and I kind of, I thought definitely it seems like something I'd be interested in doing. I believe the only experience worth believing in life is your own experience. So I says, well, look, fuck it, I'm gonna head on out there, So I ended up going out with three of my mates at the time. One of them from Australia, and two of them were living in London at the time. So I managed to talk the three of them into coming with me or whatever. So I kind of just booked everything up, and I'd seen a documentary called Eye Awakenings, and that was done by a Australian reporter or whatever by the name of Rak Razam. So I'd watched the documentary, and it was kind of all about the ceremonies that take place out there and all of that, and kind of after seeing, the healing, I suppose, that was happening out there, I just, felt I needed to go out and find out for myself,
And sorry,
So,
what do you mean healing that was going on?
well, I guess the best way to describe this is these are plant medicines that have been used for thousands of years by indigenous tribes throughout the world, for different forms of healing. So they would say a lot of kind of the depression and anxiety that people suffer from in the world, and say maybe a lot of the cancers and stuff like that, that what they are is a spiritual sickness, and it's beginning to manifest itself in all of them kind of different ways in all of us. That's what the shaman would be the healer that would prepare the medicine and would do the ceremony which out there. It's their belief that they use these plant medicines to heal spiritually, is what they heal with, and all throughout history, every culture that we know of has used different plant medicines to what they would say enter into the spirit world. So in the Amazon regions, they use ayahuasca. In Mexico, they would have used the psilocybin mushrooms. In Africa, the Bwiti tribes would use iboga. Whereas I suppose in Ireland, our druids would have used psilocybin mushrooms. All of ways of entering the spirit world and healing. They call them medicines. A lot of people would say they're drugs, but they would always say, no, these are medicines, So you ingest the plant, the ayahuasca is, it's made up of two parts. So it's made up of the Banistoris capi, which is the vine, and ayahuasca translated means vine of the soul or vine of the dead. And the tribes in the Amazon have used them for thousands of years to contact their dead, to contact their spirits, and for as I said, for healing purposes and all of that. And sorry, the other leaf that's in it is the chacruna leaf, which is high in DMT. So when the two of them are merged together, it's put into a massive big pot of boiling water, and it's boiled down for 8 hours. But when you ask the shamans out there, how did they come to put these two plants together? Because for every square mile in the Amazon rainforest, there's 100,000 species of plants, and they've managed to take these two plants and boil them down into what they would call a medicine. And this medicine is the most it's the most psychedelic plant in the world. So it is. It's containing the most DMT than any other plant in the world. So when you go there, it's all done in a ceremony. So everything's kind of done in the dark. So it is. And you go in, you've got your mattress on the ground or whatever, and the shaman beforehand, he will have prepared the medicine or whatever for a day or two beforehand, boiling it and reducing it down, boiling it and reducing it down. And you kind of go in there at night time, and you obviously take part in one of the healing ceremonies. And when we were there, there was 12 or 14 people there, and different people were there for different reasons, I suppose. Some people were there, you know, like I was, I guess, looking for maybe answers. I guess, you know, at the time I was maybe afraid to admit it, but I guess what I was really looking for was God. That's, I guess, what I was looking for. And when I talk about God, I always use the word God, but I'm not talking about a guy that's sitting up in the clouds with a big fluffy beard and he's taking a list of all, you know, the sins you make. I'm talking about consciousness. That's when I talk about God and I use the word God, I'm talking about consciousness, and that's what these plants do. These plants expand your consciousness, and that's where the healing, I think, comes in for a lot of people. You know, before I left Australia, when you ask about the healing, I suppose, before I left Australia, about 15 days or so beforehand, on my very last day in work in Australia, I'm a painter by trade, and I was working painting a window in an old prison, but the panes of glass on the windows were like maybe, I don't know, 50 or 60 years old, like, but they were literally paper thin, and I went to push the window to see whether I could open it or not to finish it off or whatever, and then I put my hand through the window, and I can
see the scar on your thumb.
I ended up with that scar there, so I got 20 stitches in my hand.
Lovely.
Yeah, so that was literally on my last day in work in Australia. So I went in, got operated on, the whole shebang. My hand was in a cast. Prior to me going to Peru, before we actually went into the jungle, we done Machu Picchu. We climbed up through Machu Picchu for 4 days, and that in itself was absolutely just a breathtaking experience.
And on that, sorry, just get you to pull that mic a little bit closer, just I want to make sure I'm catching all this. But on the trip to Machu Picchu, was that necessary? Do you need to actually traverse through it?
No, okay. Definitely not. No, to be honest, I just thought it'd be a nice way to kind of to go in there, because, you know, there's amazing culture and history in doing Machu Picchu, like, you know, that they're, you know, hundreds and thousands or thousands of years old, some of them buildings, and they're built high up into the mountains. So I just thought it'd be a kind of a nice way to kind of go and do it before we headed into the jungle, you know.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
And again, sorry to cut across you again, but I want to jump back slightly, because I've been, I suppose, disillusioned with society to a certain degree, or to a large degree, I suppose, and I suppose it's been partly the reason why I started this podcast, to have conversations with the likes of yourself and others. And I've heard of ayahuasca. I've taken psilocybin in the form of magic mushrooms before. I've experimented with various different drugs and substances and experiences and all the rest of it. Probably similar maybe to yourself. And I'd heard that there was great benefit in going to, let's say, the far off jungle somewhere and doing something like ayahuasca or one of the other rituals that you mentioned. But I never did. Least of all convinced, you know, 2 or 3 of me mates to down tools and head off with me. So, like, how long did the trip last from start to finish, for a start? I
guess in total we were probably over there for about, I think it was about 16 days. I think we kind of landed in Cusco, which is where you go to do Machu Picchu. So we were kind of there for a day. Then we headed out. You start off on the bottom of the mountain, and you climb up. I think I'm nearly sure it's 20,000 feet or something by the time you get to the peak or whatever. And I can only describe to people the views, like, you know, it's absolutely breathtaking to sleep under what you can only describe as a billion stars every night, like, you know. And it's certainly, I got out of that what I thought I would. It certainly opened me up to what the medicine was going to be all about. Like, I remember talking to one of our tour guides over there, and we began to talk about, I suppose, the Western world and his view in the world and all of that kind of stuff, like, and he, we got to kind of talking about, money and possessions and all of that kind of thing, like, and we obviously began to talk about wealth, and we seem to have very similar kind of ideas and that, but he said to me, about the one thing I'll always remember, he said to me about wealth, he says, it depends on how you define wealth. Wealth is only a perspective. He says, you might think because you have a pocket full of money that you're wealthy. He says, but I get to sleep under these stars every single night of the year, and he says, that's more than any of the money you have in your pocket. And to be honest, I couldn't have agreed more, definitely. It was breathtaking. But we camped up on the mountain every night, so you would have we were hiking for about 8 hours every day, 8 or 9 hours, and you'd be stopping and eating along the way and all of that kind of stuff. And on the 4th day of that, you kind of arrive on the I suppose you'd call the village of Machu Picchu at the very top,
Yeah.
So that was amazing, because as you came over kind of the brow or whatever, you were sitting there, and first thing in the morning there's a massive mist over the whole kind of city, and as literally in the space of an hour, you just kind of see the mist just disappears, and all of a sudden you've got this city up on the very top of a mountain, like, and I guess there's very conflicting things of how it was built, or why it was built, or who even built it, or how long it's been there. I guess, if you're to believe the mainstream kind of view on it, I think they reckon it's a couple of 100 years. But if you talk to the locals and you talk to, I suppose maybe I'm sure you've probably heard of the Graham Hancocks and Randall Carlsons of the world and guys like that. Like, they would say that they're maybe they're much older than we're led to believe by the mainstream media,
Yeah.
So, but I guess that's probably a different discussion too, I suppose.
Oh no,
but,
listen, we might get there on another day. But
yeah,
again, but like, not to kind of repeat myself all the time, but what the fuck got you to go over there? I mean, there must have been something.
The shaman would tell you, and
but
people who work with the medicine.
Did they tell you that you needed to go over here to do this?
No, what they would say to you is that your spirit gets a calling. So that's how it's described. Your spirit gets a calling to go out and do this medicine, and you maybe even unbeknownst to yourself have reasons for going out there, whether it's healing, whether it's any of them things, but they say the plant, they believe that the plant has a spirit of its own. They believe that it's called Mother Ayahuasca, and she is a healing plant. And they say that she calls you out there. She calls you for a reason, and that's why you end up there and bringing 3 of your fucking mates with you to do it as well. The fuck. I don't know whether they were getting called, but I felt for the year before. So as soon as I put that plan into action, there was nothing stopping me going out there. I had to go out there, and I felt it in my body that I had to go out there, and I guess it turned out in the end that it did. I guess as we go along, I'll explain to you kind of what was happening out there and stuff,
Yeah.
I definitely believe that. I definitely believe I was called out there for a reason, and
You've said the word spirit and spiritual a couple of times.
I'm not mad on the word spiritual, to be honest with you, but it's I guess, it's the only word I have to use, like, it's for want of a better word, I guess. I'm not mad on the word spiritual. I don't know why. That's what I just. But that's all we can use, really, I suppose, isn't it? And
I think that's a recurring theme. I've heard God knows how many different people, from scientists to psychologists to mystics and gurus and all sorts, struggle with this kind of term, spirit or spirituality. If consciousness is, or if God is consciousness, is spirituality? Is it a form of consciousness? Is it?
Well, I think everything is consciousness. You and me and everything are just consciousness. Like, I think the big question, I guess, is that you have to ask yourself is why have we, as a species, why have we evolved to have mystical experiences, and not just through plant medicines, through yoga, through fasting, through deep meditations. Some people get there through near-death experiences. Some people get there through fasting,
religious experiences.
Exactly. Some people just have them naturally. Some of the tribes in Africa get there from doing 24-hour dances, so trance dances, and they all bring us to the same place. Why have we evolved to have mystical and transcendent experiences of God?
Well, you could argue that we've evolved the way we have naturally through the process of evolution, and these experiences are almost like I was about to say the glitch in the matrix, but that even that sounds a bit kind of mystical and a bit kind of woo woo. But they could be just short circuits. It might be nothing. It might be, I don't know, a short circuit in your brain. It could be almost like a fault as such, like which would make them all faults. Like? What's it sound like?
That sounds like somebody who's never done a high dose of psychedelics. That's what that sounds like. I've had that conversation with people before. But why then are so many people having these experiences and coming back and feeling reconnected to nature? Why are they coming back and trying to heal the planet, and not only that, heal themselves? You know, these experiences that people are having are literally changing their lives. Absolutely. I'm not saying everybody. I'm sure there's people that probably it doesn't change their life.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure that that's the case, you know, but why are we as a species wired to have mystical experiences of God? That's the question I would have to ask myself, and do regularly ask myself that. And I can't, I'd love to be able to give you the answer, like, you know, I'm sure you would too, but it's a question I always ask myself, like, if all this is just nothing, if there's no meaning to this is all, as maybe science would like us to believe, that this is all just a matter of coincidence, like, why do we have these experiences of God, not just through one way, through a number of ways? So as I've said, you've got yoga, you've got meditation, you've got plant medicines, you know, near-death experiences. We've got all of them things, like, you know, it's not that it's just one thing that's getting us there. There's a whole host of different ways of getting us there, and why is that? That's the question I find myself constantly asking myself. Why are we wired to have these experiences?
I have to say, I love the way that you've said that you don't know why you're having these experiences, and that you'd love to know, and that you keep questioning it. Because what I was kind of afraid of before you came out here was that you would have had the answers, which would have made you, you know, you'd want that. What's that quote? Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. But you're not saying you have, you know, the answer. You're just
not at all.
You're on a path to trying to find it. I suppose, as we all are.
You know, all I can ever give is my experience. I'm not here to tell anybody that what I'm saying is the truth of the world. I'd love to be able to tell you that, but you know, all I can give you is my experience, and that's up, you know, to you to make up your mind on what you think I'm saying, whether it's true or whether it has an effect on you or not. You know, I can only tell you the effect it's had on my life, and the positive effect it's had on my life, and that's all I can really offer you. Like, you know, the only way for you to truly know is for you to go and have that experience yourself. That's all there is. Like, I can talk all day about this stuff, and I do, to so many people who are interested in it, and I always leave it by saying the only answer is to have the experience yourself, like, you know. And I think that's the same with everything in life, you know. Everything is just experience. That's what we're here to do, is experience things, you know. That's what I definitely believe.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'd say you're not short on people that are keen to talk to you about all this.
Oh yeah, but I'm sure. Yeah, absolutely. There's always somebody kind of wants to hear about it, I suppose, because it's something that, you know, as we said, like, there's not many people we know that have done it, like, you know. And I definitely feel that people at the minute are definitely hungry for knowledge, like, you know. I think religions have let us down. I think the way religions are being conducted at the minute have really let us down, I guess, spiritually, if that's what you want to use the word, I suppose. You know, people are, you know, wondering, why is there so much suffering in the world, and all of them different things. That's a thing that's happening on a daily basis, and people, you know, rightly so, are questioning that, like, you know, and questioning what's it all about, I suppose. And I'm finding more and more people are beginning to question that, you know.
No, I think so too, and I think podcasting has had its role to play there as well. It's given people like ourselves the chance to have conversations like this that other people can tune into, and
of course,
encourage conversations, I suppose.
But
getting back to, so you landed, you went to Machu Picchu. After Machu Picchu, what was the next port of call from there?
We flew went back down into Cusco and flew to Iquitos. So we were a night in Iquitos, kind of just hanging around. Now, I wouldn't be mad in Iquitos. It's not the nicest of places, you know. It's a bit run down and stuff like that, you know. But we just stayed there for a night, didn't really do a whole lot, and then headed for the jungle. Got picked up on the bus the next day with the other 9 people that were heading out on to the ceremony with us, like, you know. So yeah, that was it then. And then we were in the jungle then, in the Amazon, I suppose, for 11 days, 5 ceremonies over 11 days. So you had a night on and night off, night on, night off, like, you know. So
And sorry, I only know this from having read the blog. When you say a night on, night off, that means you took the ayahuasca, you'd have a break the following day.
yeah, so if Monday you took the ayahuasca, Tuesday you had no ayahuasca, Wednesday ayahuasca, none on the Thursday. So every second day, like.
Okay, and the skeptic in me is screaming up at the surface here. How much did this cost, and is there an industry in it? And is
there
an
absolutely
element of
is,
that?
for sure. There definitely is an industry in it. Yeah, our 10 days out in the jungle cost, I think it was about €1,100 or whatever.
Okay, and
so
that's
that was
each
your
for how many?
accommodation, your food. That was the psychedelic. There was the ayahuasca itself and all of that. Like, you different, like, the whole thing is done over 11 days, but it's the ceremony is not just the hours that you're in the Maloka. The ceremony is literally from the minute you get there till you leave. On the days that you're not drinking ayahuasca, the shamans preparing these kind of flower baths, which are what they say would be cleansing your energies and all of that kind of stuff. Like, you know, I know energy sounds a bit woo-woo, but that's what they would say. They would say that everybody is just pure energy, and what they're doing is just cleaning your energy to prepare you for the ceremony on the next night. Because people are going through some, like, you know, this isn't a pretty thing that you just go out there, drink ayahuasca and you go and see these beautiful visions. As I said, the medicine it's hard work. That's what it is. Like, it's work. If you're not going out there to have a party, like, it's not going out on a Saturday night and just taking drugs and having a rip up with your mates. Like, you're out there to do serious work, like, you know, and that can be very hard on a lot of people, like, you know.
Having said that, you can smoke ayahuasca.
You can smoke DMT.
The whole experience might last, 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah, you can smoke DMT. I've smoked DMT a number of times, so I have, and it's to be quite honest, it's a rocket ship into the spirit world, and
Yes.
it is absolutely mind blowing. It'll make you wonder what reality is once you come back out, because that seems more like reality than this does at some stage.
Is that a good thing? Because I can hear people listening to this saying, yeah, go off and smoke your DMT and forget about reality. Yeah, that sounds like a very responsible thing to do. Like, I know.
Well, it depends. We all wake up in a certain way, and so, as I said, there's plenty of different ways to wake up. But these plants have been given to us and have been used for thousands of years by tribes all over the world. We in the Western world we've done away with all of that kind of stuff, and we seem to be suffering, do we not? We seem to be suffering from a lack of any spiritual direction whatsoever, yet these tribes that have used these plants and still to this day use these plants, yet they don't seem to be suffering spiritually. They don't seem to be suffering with the diseases or the cancers or the depressions that we do. So,
Is that more to do? And again, I'm not,
oh no, of course,
doing my role as kind of devil's advocate here.
Yeah,
but
of course.
Is that more to do with the fact that they're not eating the processed foods that we are? They're not getting advertising bombarded at them.
Yeah, it's a bit of
24
everything.
hours.
It's a bit of everything, I would imagine. Like, like when you go out to drink the ayahuasca, there's a diet that you do, because if you're coming from the West, like, and the diet is a strict diet, and I feel that the longer you do the diet, the more benefit you'll get from drinking the ayahuasca. Like, it's like a cleanse of your body, like, So in the diet, like, there's no meat, there's no dairy, no sugar, no salt, no sex, no drugs, no alcohol. I think that's about it.
And why, whatever about no drugs or no processed foods, but why no meat and even no dairy? What's the idea behind the dietary restrictions?
I guess it's just a complete cleansing of your body, I suppose, is what they describe it as. Like, that I guess if it depends, I guess, on what you think consciousness is. Like, I would believe that you and your brain is a conductor of consciousness, like, and the cleaner your body, the cleaner, they use the word energy, like, the cleaner your energies that you go in there with, the more of the experience you're going to have, like, because the way the medicine works is you could go out there, and do the first 5 ceremonies, and it could end up just cleaning your body. It could give you a full cleansing of your body, and you could come out of there feeling good, like, But if you've done the cleansing before you go out there, then it begins to work on your heart, and it begins to work on kind of the spiritual side of things, like,
Just thinking out loud, like I find that with cannabis, if I was to consume a small amount of cannabis on an empty stomach,
Yeah.
I find that it has much more of an effect on me than, let's say, if I had a big meal
Yeah.
and had a similar dosage, it would practically have no effect on me.
Yeah, well, it's the same with the psychedelics. Like, you know, when you do mushroom ceremonies or you do ayahuasca, there is fasting. There's fasting for the couple of hours beforehand, and I guess that's what the diet is like. The diet is that you do beforehand it is a fasting, and it's a getting rid of all of the bad things that we put into our bodies, as we said, the processed foods, you know, all the sugary foods, the salt, and all them kind of things, like, you know. So it is a prolonged fast, really, is what you're doing, you know, and it's just to prepare your body for the medicine, I suppose.
I can imagine maybe not a biologist, but maybe a dietitian, or maybe a bit of both, that would say, you know, the fact that you haven't eaten certain foods or you fasted for a certain period of time, that would affect your, you know, your blood sugar levels maybe, or your insulin, and that's why you're getting more or less of an effect from certain drugs, which kind of leads me down to ask, what is the kind of scientific consensus, if there is any, on what something like DMT, dimethyltryptamine, is? Have you looked into the science of it before? Would you know
I
the
definitely
structure
do.
of it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. No, I do listen to guys like say Dennis and Terence McKenna. Like, you know, Dennis McKenna is a biologist, and he's over and back into the rainforest the whole time. He is a big advocate for ayahuasca and stuff like that, you know. But again, you know, because these things have been illegal, because, you know, obviously in the 60s in America, the big war on drugs started and all that, and psychedelics were put on a class A, so they were told that they had no medicinal benefits. So what was happening was psychologists back in the 60s were using LSD on their patients, and they were having just incredible experiences with them, like, you know. And then obviously when the war on drugs started in the 60s by Nixon, he kind of made all these things highly illegal, so we couldn't do the science on them. There was no science to be done on them. But there's organisations now like MAPS and John Hopkins. It would be the main science place over in America. They've been given the go ahead to start kind of doing massive testing with psilocybin mushrooms and MDMA. And what they're doing is they're doing the tests on soldiers that are coming back from wars,
PTSD
and they're giving
treatment.
them post-traumatic stress disorder and all them things, and they're saying that the clinical trials that they've now been allowed to do, the results are going through the roof. Nobody has expected it. Nobody has been willing to admit of how beneficial they could have been, but the results are starting to come back now, and they're shocking everybody, really, to be honest with you. Like, you know, there's massive work being done, and these are by, you know, some of the highest institutes over in America, you know.
Yeah, top minds. I couldn't agree
more.
Oh,
for sure. So the science, what I'm trying to say is the science is, we're only beginning to get the real scientific data on it now. Like, you know, that's I guess where the science is with it, really. But
where you're coming from, you'd be keen for, you know, as far as you're concerned, am I right in saying that you're keen for more science to be done, and it's a shame that it hasn't been being done since the 60s, since all these things were made illegal?
For sure, yeah, absolutely, sure. We've lost, you know, 50 years of where people could have been having proper cures. The study that they're doing with the John Hopkins Society is on people who are who have literally been told that they've got a year to live. Usually maybe people who've got cancers and who've got different kind of things like that. So they've been given a year to live, and what they're doing is they're giving them psilocybin mushrooms to kind of, I guess, ease their fear or whatever, and what it is. And these people are coming back saying that it's, I think something like 70% of people are saying that it's in their top 3 spiritual experiences of their life, and that they've now got no fear of death.
Yeah.
So that in itself, that's 50 years of people suffering that we've had to put up with because, you know, because certain people didn't want certain drugs to be legalised, like, you know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I find it again with cannabis that oftentimes the cannabis doesn't help directly, it also helps indirectly. There's a good friend of mine whose mum, I can't remember her ailment, but cannabis has been essentially a miracle cure for her. And a way that it's helped her is it's given her appetite.
Yeah.
And the fact that she's eating
yeah
has given her, I'd say, arguably more benefit
Yeah.
than the cannabis has.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
mean, she doesn't get one without the other,
Yeah,
so it
yeah.
has an inadvertent
Yeah.
benefit. Like you're saying, if you're if you're dying of an incurable disease or something, DMT or other such psychedelics mightn't cure you, mightn't make you any better. But Jesus, if they can make the last few weeks, months, or years of your life bearable, it's unconscionable that they will be illegal.
Oh, absolutely. And think of the family. Think of the family that's sitting around watching that person die, and they're sitting there watching somebody worrying about, is this it? Like, that there's nothing after here or whatever. But these people are taking these different substances, and they're now believing in something. They're now having no fear of death. So that person for that year of their life, instead of being worried and anxious and maybe having anxiety about dying, is completely open to the fact and becomes quite ready for it. So that in itself is an amazing thing. Like, to be able to give families a healthy year together rather than a year full of worry and sickness, that can only benefit society, can't it?
No, I'd be on the same page. Bearing in mind everything that we've said, though, why are they still illegal? In your view, like what do you think it is that's stopping? Is there any society? Is there any country in the world that has decriminalised psychedelics?
Well, if you look at obviously in the Amazon jungle, like when I went to Peru, they were legalised there, so they were, and I think in Holland, you can buy mushrooms. In Portugal, I think they're decriminalised there as well. So I think with the work that, as I said, the organisations like MAPS and that are doing, there's no longer a reason to keep these things illegal. Like they said beforehand, there was no medicinal benefits to them whatsoever, but now what they're finding is that the medicinal benefits are through the roof. They're through the roof, like. But I guess these things, they're not easy. You can't just turn around, within a couple of days and get these things legalised. Like, there's obviously red tape around it, like, and there's an awful lot of, I guess, tests that need to be done beforehand. But organisations like MAPS and that, they reckon within 10 years that you will be prescribed either MDMA or psilocybin mushrooms as a cure for post-traumatic stress disorder or different anxiety diseases, depressions, things like that. As I said, the findings are through the roof, so there's no really denying it anymore. Like, the governments can't really deny it anymore. I guess big pharma wouldn't want these drugs to be legalised, would they? Because you can go, what they say the psychedelic is 10 years of counselling in 2 experiences. So in 2 experiences of the mushroom or 2 experiences of the LSD, whichever, or the MDMA, whichever of the psychedelics, the practitioner is using, I suppose, So instead of being able to have people who are maybe suffering from depression, instead of maybe having them on antidepressants for their whole life, you can then go and you can have these experiences on psilocybin. And even if you're to say there's 5 different times you have to go and do these things, that's 5 payments if you're going to be charged for these things. So the pharmaceutical industries have lost out on a customer, haven't they?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So that's, I guess, that's a big thing. Unfortunately, in America, you've got lobbyists. Like, the pharmaceutical industry have billions of dollars behind them, so they keep pushing to keep these things illegal because, their profits are going to tumble. Their profits will tumble if these substances are made legal, like,
No, absolutely, and there's that's, I suppose, the bad side of capitalism, but then there's the good side. I met a guy recently, James Linden. I think his company's Greenlight Pharmaceuticals, and he's recently got quite a lot of funding to the tune of a couple of million to research cannabinoids in Ireland. Yeah. And he's hoping to, I suppose, do the clinical trials and studies that are required to kind of prove the effectiveness of these different drugs. And the funding that he's getting is from venture capital, I believe, at least in part. Yeah. And the beauty of that is that somebody with a ball of money who's looking to invest, who's, let's say, not necessarily already involved in pharmaceuticals, sees psychedelics and I suppose alternative medicines, for want of a better term, as a massive money spinner. Yeah. So, capitalism kind of works both ways there. It's a curse and it's a savior at the same. But again, with capitalism, it's probably the reason that the proper science has been done on it too, at this stage. Like, because again, as you said, there might be certain people like that who are willing to try and get in and see if they get in at the ground floor, can money be made off it. But then
what's to say that then people haven't been doing psychedelics and kind of see the benefits for them and are willing to use their money to put these things through, like Aubrey Marcus from the Honor Academy. Aubrey Marcus is quite wealthy, and he has been doing ayahuasca ceremonies over in Peru. I presume it's Peru. It could be in Brazil, one of them, whichever one he's doing it in. But he's been doing them for a number of years out there, and he's funneling loads of money in towards trying to get these brought out as proper cures for people. So that's another side of it too, that these people that do have money are willing to invest, but maybe they're not looking for a money return. Maybe they've had these experiences and these spiritual experiences and want to help the world. Who knows? I guess what their motives are. But I know with Aubrey Marcus, he is certainly doing it to try and heal the planet. He believes in the healing properties in these plants, and that's why he's spending so much of his time and money trying to promote them.
Is there a danger that if either new or existing farmers, what's the word? New or existing pharma companies, call them. Is there a danger that they'll distill it down too much? Like I know with cannabis, say there are, I don't know, off the top of my head, let's say 20 plus different types of cannabinoids.
Yeah.
And then what they end up selling you is distilled tetrahydrocannabinol, which is THC.
Yeah.
Only one element of what's in the plant.
Yeah.
In ayahuasca, is there a similar problem? I mean, DMT is the active compound. Is there other things?
I don't think that would be the problem. I think what the problem is that these shamans, these shamans or curanderos or healers or whatever your word is for them, these people have been trained for years to work with these medicines. It's usually in a lineage, so it's usually passed down from a grandparent or a parent, and you have to do different diets with the plants. It's not just anyone that gets to become a curandero. Usually, most times, it's somebody who's maybe had a near-death experience or different kind of things, but there's a lot of training involved in these things, and the whole thing is a ceremony, and the ceremony is about giving respect to the spirit of the plant. As they would say, as I said, they believe these plants have a spirit and are a healing spirit, and they believe that the ceremony is an integral part of the whole ceremony, and that's as much about the healing as anything else, because when you're in ceremonies, there's these icaros that are sang, and the icaros are sang by the shaman, and what they are is they're healing songs, and they say that the plants gave them these healing songs, that by drinking the ayahuasca on a number of times they had direct contact with the spirits, and the spirits of these plants gave them different songs for different healing. So somebody who might go out there with depression, somebody who might go out there with anxiety, somebody who might go out there with cancer, that there's different songs for each different type of healing. So I guess with the pharmaceutical companies, that's what you're going to lose. You're going to lose, the benefit that these indigenous tribes have brought to these and the ceremonies. And it seems to be we do this in the West, don't we? Like we take a culture and we kind of, we don't understand what their ceremonies are about. So we just say, the ceremony, we don't need to do the ceremony. And I guess that's the worrying part with these medicines and stuff. They need to be done with somebody who's trained in using them, I suppose,
Yeah,
most definitely.
Not just the ceremony, not distilled to a paragraph on the back of a shiny wrapper.
Well, look, or even being brought into a clinical lab where you're sitting in a hospital bed and you're being given ayahuasca. It's all about setting. That's what it's all about. It's all about being in a comfortable environment. It's all about going in there with your intentions. That's what they say. You need to go in there with the right intentions and all them things, but you need to be with somebody who knows what they're dealing with. I can give you an example of one of the nights during one of the ceremonies. One of my friends that came with me, he was there and he was kind of lying down on his mattress or whatever, and this was during the ceremony. So everything's done in the dark. So you kind of drink at night time and everything's done in the dark, and we were all kind of lying down, and he said what felt like the devil. He says he felt like the devil walked into the Maloka, and he said that when he kind of sat up, he says it was just this energy like he's never felt before in his life, and it scared the life out of him. And he said within literally a second, he said he could see the shaman, and he said it felt like the shaman was in 4 different places at one time, kind of moving this negative energy, moving this dark energy out of the Maloka, and he forced the energy out of the Maloka, like, you know.
And sorry, you said Maloka a couple of times. What is the
Maloka? The Maloka is kind of the ceremony hut. So it's usually a big, massive wooden structure, and it's usually done in a circle, but it's made out of timber, so it's quite a big thing, like, you know. So that's where you go to sit and you do the ceremony or whatever. So each person, you have your mattress and everyone's kind of around in a circle, and the shaman's up at the top, and then you've got, you know, everyone's on their mattresses around there in a circle, you know.
And there was what? Was it 10 or 11 you said at the same time?
I think there was 12. My memory doesn't be the best at times, but I think there was 12 of us there, 12 people. Then you've got your shaman, and then you've got maybe 2 or 3 facilitators that wouldn't be drinking the ayahuasca, and they're there to help people to the toilet. Like, with the ayahuasca, they call it the purge. And what the purge is you're either vomiting very badly, or it's very bad diarrhea coming out you. And again, what the shaman would tell you is that that's the bad energies from, you know, as we've said earlier, from the processed food, from all of that thing that is kind of clogging up your body, like, you know. But your body needs to get rid of all of that first before it can then start to work on the soul. So, you know, that's when everybody's there, it's in the dark, and you've got them people to bring people to the toilet now, because, you know, you're very heavy under the medicine at this stage, like, you know, and they're highly visual. Like, ayahuasca is highly visual, like, you know. So getting to the toilet in the pitch black dark can be a little bit harder than you think, I suppose. You have your light, but you kind of try to cover it with your hand. But I guess for anybody, I suppose, who's been intoxicated before, you know yourself, it's not easy to stumble around in the dark, you know. So you always have helpers there to guide people in and out of the toilets and things like that, you know.
You could say that you're being kind of cavalier with your own safety, going to the middle of the jungle and taking a substance you're not, you know, overly familiar with, and leaving your life essentially in the hands of strangers. Is that fair to say, or like, is there an element of...
Well, I guess, like, I done quite a lot of research before I went out there. Like, I researched this, you know. There certainly is shamans out there that are just out there to make money. That's, you know, certainly something I'd like to stress to anybody listening to this, and anybody who would think about going out there. You need to do your homework on this. You need to do it with somebody that's respectable out there. You need to do it with somebody who has attention to detail, who's somebody who's been a proper trained shaman from a good lineage, like, you know, because there's a lot of charlatans out there, and they're called brujeros. They're the kind of, they would be the opposite of a good shaman, like, you know, and they aren't good, like, you know. They can go out there under the medicine. They've been known to, you know, maybe assault women, or, you know, touch people up and do different things like that, like. So I believe everything has a duality, so everything has a good and a bad in it, like, you know. So I guess that's the bad side of, you know, what ayahuasca is, like, you know, because with anything that money is involved in, you're always going to get schemers, aren't you, like, you know, no matter what it is, like, you know. And the thing with this medicine is, you know, as I've said, everything in life is duality. There's good and bad and everything, and this has no top or bottom. You can use it for either. You can either use it for good or you can use it for bad. There's nobody to stop you, like, you know.
Yeah, because just a bit of kind of back of the napkin maths. You were saying it was what, 1,100 quid there?
It's about 1,100 quid, yeah.
Over about 11 days.
Over 11 days.
There was about 10 years, so you're, you know, it's about $1,000 a day.
Yeah.
Which is big bucks, I would have thought, in Peru.
For sure.
Like, that's
for sure.
Like, that's
big
11,000. Oh, that's let's say
big
1,000 quid a day in euros.
Yeah.
Okay, so
it would have been, yeah.
So $1,000 a day.
Yeah.
Over the course of say 10 days.
Yeah.
Do you know, like the day you left, the next day, was there another 10 people in for 10 days?
Not really. There doesn't seem to be in Percy's place. No, Percy's very kind of, you know, it's definitely not done. It's not that quick of a turnover in it, like. But you have to understand too what the money, you go out there and you see where the money's going. He's building a healing centre out there. Like, he's building these huts. He's building these massive big malokas. He's building all of these things, and these are all part of a healing centre he's building. You
again,
know?
The skeptic in me says that he's investing it in his infrastructure so he can get, you know, 200 people paying 100 quid a day.
No, it's never that. It always, the most people he'll ever drink with on a night would be 10 people. 10, 12 people would be the max.
But again, the skeptic comes racing to the surface here, and he might only do 10, but he could have, you know, 5 underlings, for want of a better term, or co-shaman, or whatever you want to call them. Now again, it's not. I don't know the first. I just don't know the first thing about them.
Yeah.
I don't want to cast aspersions on them or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I obviously would be wary. So for anybody who's kind of interested, is there a good resource? Is there like an official Peruvian website of, you know?
Yeah, I think there is, but off the top of my head I can't think of the name of it now. But Percy would be very respected. There's 6 or 7 master shamans that are out there, and Percy is one of them master shamans.
Right.
So there's the Blue Morpho group. That's another one. But look, you know, you're kind of talking as if, you know, he's not entitled to make money, like, you know, because everybody in life needs money to survive and stuff like that. Like,
couldn't agree more.
He, like, from the things I've been told about Percy, like, he would spend an awful lot of money on all the people around him, everybody that's within his circle, all family, all that kind of stuff. He's, you know, worked with them, bought them houses, or, you know, looks after everybody in that area. Like, to be a shaman, you need a tribe around you, like, you know, and that's what he does. He looks after that tribe, and that's what he does, you know. But again, you know, money will always come into everything at the end of the day, and why would he not make money off something if he can? He still needs to feed his family. He's got 2 kids that are severely handicapped, that he's spending serious money in the hospitals trying to get fixed. Like, 2 of them, I think, were born with serious issues with their legs and with their arms and stuff like that, and he's had to pay crazy money over there to try and get that fixed, like, you know. So yeah, I guess.
Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't begrudge a man for making a few quid. I run my own business.
Exactly. No, I fully understand what you're saying. I know what you're saying about the money that's in it, but, you know, there's money in everything, unfortunately. Like, you know, unfortunately that's the way the world goes round, isn't it? Like, that money's always involved in everything that we do. We all have to survive, I suppose.
One thing that I've heard from, I suppose, nearly most people, I think, that have gone deep into the psychedelic route, is that they come out of it, I suppose, not falling for the trappings of society, including money and possessions and commercialism and different things. Have you found that?
Yeah, I most certainly have, to be honest with you. Yeah, I definitely have. Like, I don't, you know, I've bought a house down in Cavan at the minute that I'm kind of doing up and stuff like that, and once I have that, I'm done, you know. Like, my plan is to get down there and get as self-sufficient as I can, like, you know, to get my polytunnels going and grow my own food, and, you know, to try and get maybe do my own electricity and all of that kind of stuff, like, you know. And as I said, it's not about giving up on society, far from it, like, you know. But I believe I need to take care of myself and my family, like, you know, that I don't need to rely on anything else really to do that, like, you know. So yeah, I feel that, you know, as you said, the trappings of life and all that, they seem to disappear away, you know. But I wonder, is that, you know, I've heard from, I guess, different people over the years and things like that who would believe in God and believe in them things, and they would all tell me that, you know, when you believe in something, when you believe in a God, and again, I talk consciousness, I'm not talking about the fluffy man up in the cloud, like, you know, but when you found that you don't want for them kind of things in life, you don't need them kind of things in life, and, you know, I guess I've questioned, you know, why have we such an obesity problem? Why have we such a drink and drug problem around the world at the minute? And it's because we're losing contact with spirit and with nature, is what I feel, you know. And I think once you reconnect with that kind of thing, you know, them wants and them needs kind of disappear, I think, to be honest. And that's not to say I don't eat shite the odd time, like,
of course, yeah.
Like, of course I do. I'm human, I guess. You know, that's the thing. You know, we all kind of like them things, but they seem like it's a rarity for me, like, you know. And it's not that I'm forcing myself to not have to do them things. It's just something that doesn't, you know, particularly interest me that much anymore. You know, possessions as well. I wouldn't care what I was driving. I wouldn't care what clothes I wear. You know, they're not things that I would think about too much at all anymore, you know.
And what is it about psychedelic experiences, do you think, that, I suppose, makes people come away with that similarity in thinking?
I think it's that reconnection. I think it's that reconnection to a higher power than, you know, a higher state of consciousness, an altered state of consciousness. The way I would describe the psychedelic, whether it's ayahuasca, whether it's mushrooms, whether it's iboga, there's over 400 species of plants in the world that can give you a psychedelic experience. The way I kind of think of it is the brain, like science tells us the brain acts like a filter. There's a billion things going on around us right now, and the brain is filtering everything out so that we can have this experience to survive. What I think the psychedelic does, and what a lot of other people think the psychedelic does, is it releases the filter. It releases the filter a little bit for you to be able to see all the other stuff that's going on around you. And when you begin to see all the other stuff that's going on around you, it begins to, I guess, open your consciousness to the whole thing. Like, that's what I believe the psychedelic is. I believe it's about taking that filter off. It's about releasing the filter valve on your brain. And I think that's what you're seeing. I think you're seeing what's going on around you that's all going all around us the whole time, that the brain is filtering out. And I think that's what the psychedelic does.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. I don't know who to attribute this to as usual, but I've heard it said that you should be wary of, you should be wary of knowledge that you didn't earn. That's kind of bandied about in the psychedelic world. I don't know if you've come across it, but it's usually said in the context that be wary of what you learn from wisdom that you haven't earned. So if you take a dose of ayahuasca or magic mushrooms or whatever it is, and you feel a sense of having become enlightened, that you haven't earned that enlightenment, and that a better way would be to do it through yoga and to do it through, whether it's trance, dance, or do it via natural means, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that I buy into that, to be honest with you. Like, I believe that, there's many ways of opening up your consciousness, and I believe it's all paths to the one place. It'd be all very boring if we all just found it through one way, would it not? Like, the whole idea of the game is that, it's all diversity, isn't it? Like, and I think there's many ways of getting there, and I think that's the beauty of it, to be honest. I don't buy into the fact that because you've taken a plant, sure, why would we be able to have that experience, otherwise? Like, I don't think there's any difference. The thing is that it's the whole point of it is to have the experience and to change your life. And does that matter whether you meditate to do it or whether you go into the Amazon jungle? Like, as you said yourself, like, you're taking an awful risk to go and do that. So do you not think you've earned that right then, if that's what you're saying?
Yeah, no, that's a very valid point. On the taking the risk, and kind of handing your safety, I suppose, over to someone else, essentially. I had a similar experience, completely unrelated, but a similar type thing with a skydive.
Yeah,
I've done a couple of skydives, jumping out planes at whatever 1,000 feet.
They're a good crack.
They're great crack.
Yeah.
But in the same way that you kind of surrendered your safety to the shaman, when you do a skydive or you do a bungee jump, or you get into a car, really, when you think about it, you're putting your safety in the hands of the people who made the car, the guy who's strapped to your back or whatever else. So, different strokes. But so you landed at, is it Percy's the name of the shaman, wasn't it?
Percy's the name of the shaman, yeah. Percy Garcia.
You arrived there, and what's the start? I mean, I'm trying to get a picture in my head, because I didn't get that from the blog, which I'd highly recommend everyone read, and I'm going to post it to the Facebook page. But do you arrive? Do you check in at reception?
No,
do you know what I mean?
Like that, yeah. We kind of so you kind of get the bus out, and it's done. It's you obviously head out on the highway or whatever, so you go out, but you eventually start coming into the jungle or whatever, and there's kind of a road running through the jungle. So like it's a big enough road, like it's not a dirt road or anything. But
okay.
When you get to the spot where Percy's centre is or whatever, you get off the bus or whatever, and there's probably a half an hour hike in through the Amazon then, so you kind of rock on in through, like, and there's paths cut out and stuff like that, and at different times of the year I think it can be a good bit harder to get through, because obviously with their rainy season and their wet season, sometimes you can be up to your neck in water, Now we were lucky enough when we went there, it was their dry season, so we just kind of walked on in, but you literally just get to the centre or whatever, and you're given your hut, which is literally kind of a wooden shack, and it's got your 2 beds in it, and it's got your bathroom behind you in it as well. And that's it then. And then later on in the day, Percy come and meets you or whatever. So kind of like a meet and greet. Now Percy's no English, so he has an interpreter with him, like, you know. So you meet him and the interpreter, and he just kind of gives you a bit of a rundown on, you know what, you know, I guess what the itinerary is going to be really on the couple of days that are there and that, you know.
And had you some form of an itinerary before you left, or did you know it took 10 days? Or what
we've been given a kind of an itinerary by Rack, who was kind of the facilitator of the whole thing, like, you know. So, you know, when we were emailing over and back to him, like, he'd sent you an itinerary of what you were going to be doing and different things over the kind of 10 days and that, you know. So we had a rough idea what we were going to be doing, you know.
And this is Rack Rasman.
Rack Rasman is his name, yeah.
And that's the Australian guy. You met him in Australia, did you say?
No,
or?
I didn't now. No. I'd watched his documentary, I Awakenings.
Okay.
And that's how I'd kind of come to hear about him. And then, so I'd obviously watched the documentary. The documentary was shown at the Cannes Film Festival, all the big film festivals, and got massive reviews over there, so it did. So I kind of, in my head, I was thinking, well, if he's gone to the trouble and he's getting a documentary kind of as well received as that, he'd have to be fairly reputable, wouldn't he? So I guess I kind of started looking into him. Then I realised he was kind of facilitating these groups going over and back. So I then got in contact with him and kind of booked us all in, like, you know.
Okay, so you get there, you meet Percy through his translator, that you get the lowdown on what the itinerary is, and then what?
Well, then your first night, then really you're just kind of left to just relax and chill out and just kind of fall asleep to the sounds of the jungle, I suppose, like, you know, which is in itself, you know, going out there without doing the ayahuasca is another amazing thing, like, you know. The sound of that jungle at night time it's alive, absolutely alive, with just noise and animals and sounds, and yeah, it's even a beautiful experience.
And
like,
is it insects or?
Yeah, there's insects. We actually one of the days. So you've got your two beds are in the room, and you've got kind of your toilet behind you. And on the second day, I went in just to go for pissing in the toilet, like, you know. So I lift up the lid on the toilet. But you normally, like, so you have a big bucket of water beside you. So it's a proper toilet, and then you've got
like
a bucket of water
porcelain
beside
toilet.
you. Yeah, porcelain toilet out in the middle of the jungle. Like, oh yeah, yeah. So you've got your toilet, and then you've got a big kind of bath of water beside you, and you obviously go to the toilet, and that's how you flush it.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
you know,
you dump
so
the bucket down.
Flushes it out, whatever. But I lifted up the lid of the toilet, and there was a monster tarantula in the toilet. So we flushed the tarantula down the toilet, and then the next day when we came, there must have been easily about 5,000 baby tarantulas going down the toilet as well. So yeah, so you do get a few nasty surprises. Like, there's bugs, there's mosquitoes all around you, you know. There's nothing major, like nothing that, you know, would be annoying you or freaking you out or anything, like, you know. But they're definitely there, you know.
And did you have to get shots or?
No,
over?
There was nothing. That part of the jungle that we went to, there was no need for shots or none of that kind of stuff, like, you know. So yeah, no, definitely not now. But I'm sure, you know, I think in some of the other places, you know, as you'd maybe go deeper into the jungle or deeper into different parts of Peru, I'm sure there are different places where you would need, you know, to get different shots and things. But most of the shamanic ceremonies kind of take place in and around Iquitos and that, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what the history is, I suppose.
I suppose so, yeah. Well, there and then in Cusco as well. Like, you can go in deep into the mountains in Cusco, back where Machu Picchu was, and you can do it in there. They've another plant medicine in there called San Pedro. And what they say is San Pedro is the male plant and ayahuasca is the female plant. And the female plant ayahuasca is healing on a spiritual and a physical level, and the San Pedro is working on your heart. So they call that a heart medicine, and that's about opening up your heart. So maybe some traumas that we all carry around with us.
So
like
when you say your heart, your metaphorical heart, as opposed to the pump in the middle of your chest.
Exactly. Like. No, I don't mean actually on your heart, but, you know, they call it a heart medicine. That say, like, maybe psychological issues, like different, say, you know, maybe deaths in your family, or, you know, different things like that, or, you know, different fears you might have in life, or different anxieties and emotions, I guess is what you would call it. Yeah.
Okay.
So it kind of, the San Pedro is the male, and the ayahuasca is the female, and they both work on different things, you know.
The San Pedro, though, is that DMT or
no? It's
so
not
it's
DMT.
A completely different
completely different substance. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not even the same. It's not the same molecules, none of that kind of thing.
But it's a psychedelic.
So it's a psychedelic. Yeah. It's not. It's as far as I know, it's not as visual as the ayahuasca. It's more. As I said, it's more kind of working on the emotions and kind of things like that. But, you know, it's still a psychedelic. Like, you know.
Yeah.
there is visuals with it, but just not to the extent. The ayahuasca, which obviously DMT is the strongest psychedelic known to man. So the DMT is in the ayahuasca, where it's not in the San Pedro.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I just like to say with the DMT, DMT is naturally produced in your brain.
Yes, I believe so. Has it been localized in the pineal gland?
They believe from doing scientific tests with rats and stuff like that, that's what they've found it to be in, like, is in the pineal gland in the brain. When you dream at night, very small, minute parts of DMT is released into your brain, and that's why you dream. And what the shamans would say is when you die, and what science is now beginning to kind of say, and this is what happens with the rats, is that when you die, your brain is flooded with DMT, and what the shamans would say is that is to soothe your passage into the afterlife. So it's to bring you into the spirit world, and that's what they say that DMT is from. And if you look at through all the different cultures in the world, like say even in the hieroglyphs in the Egyptian pyramids and stuff like that, they've all got that third eye.
Yeah.
They've all got the things for the third eye, and that's what they would say that is like. They would say that they knew that that's what the DMT was like, Is the pine cone used for the same? The pine cone, I have heard that too. Yeah, I have heard that. Yeah.
I can't wait until my little brother has a listen to this, because he's a degree in neuroscience.
Right, very
so
good.
I'll be very interested to hear his thoughts on that. Yeah. Is there an evolutionary basis why the brain will be flooded with DMT? As you die, it would seem like it would seem redundant for anything to happen in the throes of death. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I guess I can only tell you from the shamanic point of view that, as they say, it's to soothe your passage into the afterlife. That's how they would describe it, like.
Okay.
And when you smoke DMT, trust me, you think you've gone to the afterlife. That's exactly what it feels like. You go through the tunnels, you go through the literally kaleidoscope. That word out. Kaleidoscope of colours and stuff like that. And it feels like you come out, so you merge out, and it feels as if. Well, it doesn't feel. You see these spirits that are basically. It seems like they're there waiting for you, and they're more or less welcoming you home.
It's funny because I wouldn't believe a word out of your mouth in relation to that. Only that everyone seems to have the same experience.
Everybody, and my answer to you would be, you need to smoke some DMT and find out for yourself, because I can tell you all night about it, and everyone else can tell you all night about it. But I've done probably DMT maybe. I suppose maybe 20 times, at this stage, and I would have been doing it when I was in Australia, to be honest with you, and I brought maybe 30 people with me doing it, and every single one of them beforehand told me I was full of shit and I was only a hippie.
Yeah.
And every single one of them at the end of them told me that I changed their life with that experience.
Yeah.
And that's 30 people that all told me I was full of shit 20 minutes beforehand. So.
But it's the 30 people that you experienced it with. It's everyone I've ever known to have taken it or have heard have taken it. All seem to have the similar experience. And I know there's another quote that I'm a big fan of, which is the plural of anecdote isn't data. But when people of all walks of life, all different cultures are all taking the same substance and having essentially the exact same experiences, you have to kind of. You have to question.
Of course.
You have to question it, I suppose.
But again, the problem with our society is that science, because science can't bring into a lab and do a test on it and see whether it is or it isn't. Like, that we all kind of were dismissive of it, like, But again, as I've said, like, each tribe and each culture all over the world have used these different plants to all bring them to the same place.
It's fascinating stuff. So. Getting back then to the actual trip, or the journey, should I say? I can't. These words have been hijacked in this conversation. So you're after making yourself at home. You have your bed, you have your toilet. You've had a horrendous experience with a tarantula. You presumably you go to bed that night, try and get a bit of sleep. You were saying the sound of the jungle was amazing. You get up, and is it kind of straight to work, or
no? It's literally just it's breakfast, really, kind of. So you have breakfast, and then you go up to the Maloka, and then kind of Percy give you a run through on maybe what's kind of gonna what to expect for the night and different things like that, like. And he on the first day he actually apologised to us, because normally he likes to meet you straight off the bus, but he hadn't on the first night because his auntie had died literally 2 days beforehand, like. And I remember somebody asking him, like, oh, you know, like, are you all right to do the ceremony or whatever, like, you know, and he was there going, oh yeah, sure, I'll probably speak to her during the ceremony, was his answer. And he, you know, somebody, you know, when, you know, the way people think they know something, but knowing at the very essence of your soul is a very different thing. And I could tell from the way he knew, from the way he, you know, was speaking and behaving, that he knew he would speak to her in the spirit world, or because, as I said, like, these tribes have talked to their ancestors for thousands of years through these plant medicines, you know, and he was just as if nothing had happened, like, you know. To them, death is not like we view it in the Western world. Like, you know, they would view it as, you know, you drive around in this body for, you know, 70 years if you're lucky or whatever, but then the soul transcends, and he would be absolutely believing that, like, you know.
Transcends to what? Do they believe in reincarnation? Is there a religion associated with ayahuasca?
No, definitely not with ayahuasca. I you know, well, there is one in Brazil, and they kind of do it through, I guess they do through Catholicism. I'm nearly sure is what it is, like, you know. But they drink every Sunday, like, they get together and they have mass, and they'll drink bits of ayahuasca. Now, they wouldn't drink as strong a cups of ayahuasca as, say, what you'd be drinking out in the jungle, like, you know. Yeah, so there definitely is a religion. I think it's called Santa Diem, I think is the name of it. And I think it's now after getting approved in America, as far as I know, to be able to use ayahuasca. So I think it could be the first psychedelic that they're allowed to use over in America, I think, now at this stage, because they would use it as a sacrament. They say it's a sacrament and part of their religion. But out in the jungle drinking the ayahuasca, you know, there's no religion, like, you know. It's not like going to mass.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
But they certainly, I would imagine that they believe in reincarnation. I would imagine that they do. Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah. Do I? Most definitely. Yeah. Sure. How could you learn everything in one go? You won't learn it all in one go, will you?
You could argue that why would you be expected to learn it all in one go?
Yeah, you wouldn't. That's what I'm saying.
But why would you? Just because you can't learn it all in one go, why would that necessitate or?
Well,
why would you need to know it all?
I guess my, you know, I would believe in a soul. I believe you and me are both souls, and we've come here playing a game, and we've both come here and played the game to forget that we're a soul, and that's what awakening is awakening to who you are. And I guess I love, you know, I used to be a person who used to say that I thought all religions were bullshit. But what I'm now beginning to realise is that there's incredible wisdom in every religion. It's just got a whole load of bullshit on top of it. And it's just, you need to figure out and try and kind of, you know, decipher which is the bullshit and which is the wisdom, you know. And I would definitely, I love the Hindu philosophy, I guess. Like, you know, I love the thing that you are God playing a game of hide and seek with himself. Because if you were God and you had an infinite amount of time, so what else would you be doing? You know?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I would believe that, you know, I believe in evolution, and I believe that, you know, I believe in the evolution of the soul, I believe in the evolution of this planet, I believe everything is a game of evolution, and I believe, you know, you're birthed here, and it's all about evolving your soul, and as each time you come back here, you know, you'll gain a bit more wisdom, or you'll gain a bit more knowledge, and you'll further evolve your soul. And that's what I believe, and I believe the end game is to evolve your soul where you merge back into the Godhead, where you merge back into the one, the singularity, you know. That would be my belief. Like, I believe that we're all souls, and that this body is just, you know, something that you walk around in for 70 years. And I believe Ivor McQuillan is an ego that I take on when I come here, the same as Francis McKeown is an ego that you take when you come on here, because that's how you need to experience life, and you need to experience different things to learn and to grow. So that would be my beliefs. Again, they're only my beliefs from, you know, from what I've learned from using these plant medicines, from what I'm now beginning to learn from, you know, reading on the Hindu religions, on Buddhism. You know, I heard you speaking the other day about Jordan Peterson. Like, I've learned an amazing amount about the Bible through listening to Jordan Peterson's teachings and Carl Jung and guys like that, like, you know, who've got amazing teachings. And I believe that there's what's the word? There's loads of arrows pointing you in the right direction as you walk along your path, and I think you'll stumble along each of them as you're meant to, and I believe that's how the soul evolves, and I believe it's all a game. I believe it's the game of evolving your soul, and that's what you're here to do.
What you're talking about has that been encapsulated in a religion, for want of a better term, or in something else? Like, can you say that you're a insert what you are here? Do you know that kind of way?
Would I associate with any religion?
Yeah, maybe religion is the wrong term, but like some people would consider themselves a Catholic or a Buddhist or is there a summarising term?
There's none that I would kind of associate myself with at all.
Is there a closest one?
But I suppose Hinduism recently. Okay. You know, I've begun to read their scriptures, and you know what I'm beginning to find at the base of all religions is that, as I said, like, there's amazing wisdoms in it. Like, you know, they're, you know, at the base levels of them all, they're telling you how to lead a good life. I think the ego gets involved then, and then it starts saying, oh, this God needs to be worshipped, or this will happen, or that will happen, or whatever. And I think that's a load of bullshit. You know, I think with, you know, even with Catholicism, the whole idea of sin, I think sin is a joke. Like, you know, there's no such thing as sin. There's only lessons. That's my belief. Like, that all it is lessons. How can there be sin if you're here to evolve your soul? Because the only way you're going to learn the lessons to evolve your soul is to make mistakes. And I think we're all here, we're making mistakes and we're learning, and we all suffer here, and the hardest things that you suffer from in your life are the things that teach you the most and give you the wisest lessons. We've all found that the hardest things in life are the things that, you know, bring you on the furthest in life, I think.
No, but without a doubt. I was actually only reading a book called Tribe by a guy called, I think, Sebastian Junger.
I've heard about it.
And yeah, it's a fantastic read. But he touches on exactly what you're talking about there, the idea that struggle brings families and communities closer together.
Yeah.
And we've all experienced it when there's a death in the family, everybody rallies together. And he mentions that in a couple of examples he gives one was the Blitz, the bombing of London, when 30-odd thousand people, civilians, were killed. But the population of London still to this day look back on that era with a sense of pride, and you know, it was a time when everyone kind of grouped together, and the bonds felt stronger than ever before. I think the same is said about New York post 9/11.
Exactly.
Everybody kind of pooled the resources and kind of clung together.
That is life's greatest teacher. I believe that. I believe that is life's greatest teacher. Because nothing can make you appreciate life more than death. Nothing.
That might sound, I don't know what that would sound like to somebody who's lost a child, say.
Yeah, I certainly understand that, but if you look at life as, you know, just this one window, this one life of coming here, there's amazing lessons when a child dies, and that's easy for me to say because it's not something I'm experiencing at the minute. But, you know, you look at the empathy that comes out of that. You look at as we've already spoken, the togetherness that comes out of that. The life lessons that are taught in that situation are absolutely incredible, like, you know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'd be inclined to agree with you.
That's not, again, you know, as we've said, that's certainly not going to bring any consolation to the parents who are going through that at the minute. But, you know, down the line, maybe the lessons are, as we said, like, as I would believe, is to evolve your soul further on. And it might not stand to you now because, you know, you're going through an amazing pain. But I think the lessons that are involved in that are going to be, you know, what's going to evolve your soul furthest. Like, if you would think of maybe of that child, if you're to believe in the soul and you're to believe that, you know, we are incarnated here a number of different times, you know, what about the idea that maybe that child as a last act on this planet comes here, you know, has that experience where it dies young, but is just on its way to merging with God, to the most transcendent experience of them all.
Yeah.
You know, what if that's the case? Again, I'm not saying it is, and I'm not saying that it is, but I'm saying that is a beautiful thought, to think that maybe, you know, for that child to give its life, you know, in its last act before it transcends and re-merges with God. And as I said, God, I'm using the word consciousness and, you know, all of them kind of things, you know.
Do you think that there's a place for science in understanding pretty much everything that you've been talking about, or do you think that science is something else?
I think science can be an amazing tool, but I think science on its own, you know, I find it's as dogmatic as any of the other religions, to be honest with you. I've listened to a number of scientists and how they talk about how, their theories aren't getting heard, their studies aren't getting read, and all of these kind of things. So I find with science, there seems to be, the Richard Dawkins and the people like that, like they seem like they have these kind of head guys that, whatever they say goes. And, for prime example, like you've got students who are working under a scientist or whatever and are being, doing their college courses with them, and for that student, if he finds something that, doesn't agree with what the scientist is teaching, he'll find he gets no funding, he gets none of them kind of things. Like, so, science is an amazing tool, I believe, but I believe it has to work hand in hand with spirituality. I believe not everything can be, boiled down in a lab and said, right, this is the experiment and this is how we'll do it. Like, I don't think that can happen. Show me love in a lab. Do you love your partner and your child?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, show me that in a laboratory then. Show me the experiment that tells you that you do.
Yeah,
because it can't be done.
I couldn't agree more.
So I do believe in science, but I believe science certainly can't give us the answers to them questions. And to me, consciousness and love and all them things are the important things in life. And I don't think that science that can be done in a lab. I can't see how it can be. Like,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, as Peterson puts it, science is the study of things. I'm butchering this quote now, but science is the study of things, and religion is the study of how to act, or how to act amongst things, being everything in the kind of physical world.
Yeah.
But again, we keep getting
we're
drifting, but it's great. I'm loving it now.
Of course, yeah.
But so day one, or you spent the night. You get up, you said, did you have breakfast?
You have breakfast, yeah. It's kind of a light enough meal, and then you've lunch. Everything you're eating is light enough. Now, I was lucky enough, because when I was over there, it's mostly kind of like salads and rice, and that's it. Like, because as I said, you're on the diet, so.
Sorry, according to your blog, I think you're saying you're on the diet. Is it 6 weeks previous to going over there in the first place?
I done it 6 weeks previous to going over there.
And that's recommended, is it?
Not really. They say about a week, but I kind of do things to the extreme when I'm doing the way to be like, right, I might as well. I'm in, like, so I kind of done it. Yeah, I done it for the 6 weeks before I went, but no one else on the group had it all. Like, sure, the lads I went with were stuffing the cans of Coke and steaks down their mouth just before the bus was going to bring us out to the jungle. So they didn't really take the diet too seriously, I suppose.
So you had your light breakfast or whatever it was, and then what was that day like? So this is the second day you're there.
This
so you're
is the second day
you're
doing the ayahuasca that night. Yeah.
So like you woke up presumably 9-10 in the morning or so for the whole day that you're there.
Nah, you're up earlier than that. Like, I guess you're probably up. Sure, it's bright at 6 in the morning in the Amazon jungle. Okay. Like, so well at the time of the year we were there, it was bright at that stage. Like, so as I said, you're just in a wooden hut. Like, so you've no curtains, or it's not a hotel you're staying in. So there's.
If you're in the Amazon, it's probably 12. Is it 12 hours night, 12 hours day?
Yeah, I think it would have been around that, because we would have been up. Most nights, I think ceremony was around 7, so it would be getting dark at 7. So it must have been 12 at 12.
Because they don't have seasons along the Amazon, sure they don't.
I think it's just a wet season. No, they obviously get their wet season, and then they have their dry season, like, So
okay,
yeah, but their wet season, like, the whole place gets absolutely drenched, like, as I said, when you be walking in that path in the wet season, you could be walking up in muck and water up to your neck, like,
right.
We were lucky that as we were walking in, it was just the dry season,
Okay, maybe I'm thinking of along the equator, or maybe you're on the tropics or that, but again, we're going down another rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So you're up at whatever time in the morning, like that's in the 12 hours between getting up and doing this ceremony starting. Like, what's going on?
You're doing like? You're doing them flower baths and stuff like that. So the flower bath then during the day would be so where the Maloka is, you kind of there's another area off, and it's kind of there's a river running through it. So that's where all the flower baths are kind of done. So Percy's there, and he's using they use a sacred tobacco, so it's obviously not like the cigarettes you buy out in the shop like that,
course,
full of chemicals and all that. It's the pure tobacco, and that's another sacred plant for them, like, you know, and they use that for the cleaning of energies and things like that, you know.
And is that the tobacco plant? Has that got
That's the
nicotine
tobacco,
in it, or is it something else? Is it something they smoke that doesn't contain nicotine?
No, there'll be no chemicals or anything in it. No, I think it would have nicotine, because I'm sure as tobacco grows, it's got nicotine in it. Sure.
Yeah, no, it does. Yeah.
Well, literally what it is just literally the tobacco leaf.
Okay.
So it's just literally the tobacco leaf, and it's just kind of rolled up, like, you know. But they,
Right.
as I said, so you go down and you're in the water, and they kind of do these flower baths now, and they'd have, you know, each day would be a different flower bath to clean whatever kind of energies, you know, for the different energies of the time. So you'd go in, you'd get your flower bath, and they'd use the smoke, so they'd be blowing the smoke on you, kind of again to clean your energies and things. So you'd be doing that during the day. Then you'd be back up, you'd probably have lunch, everyone would be kind of just sitting around chatting, and, you know, it's up to you kind of really to fill your day. Then you might be reading, or you might be just chatting amongst yourselves and things like that, you know. But
right, and to give me a bit more of a visual on
there's no TVs there, like.
Yeah.
yeah.
To give me more of a visual on what the flower bath is like, is it a porcelain bath like you'd have in your home?
No. So you kind of come up these steps, like, and Percy just has them done in they're just like done in big buckets or whatever, like, you know, and he's just kind of using a cup, and he's just, you know, you're obviously coming out of the river, and he's the steps as you come up the river, and you're just there, and he's kind of just pouring the jug of water down over your head, and he's using a patch of smoke, so he's blowing it on the crown of your head, and then he blows it onto your heart. So you put your hands out and he blows it into your heart, and kind of that's just part of the cleaning of the energies and that, you know.
Okay, and when you say that it's a flower bath, there's petals in it?
Yeah, so there'll be all the different ones. So, you know, over there they would say that the Amazon provides the medicine for everything, like, you know. So they would use like loads of different petals from loads of different plants or whatever, and it would be put into this concoction that Percy's been, you know, taught by different shamans to make. And again, they would say, you know, as I was saying to you earlier on, there's 100,000 different species of plants in the rainforest. I guess this is what I was trying to say with the making it with the ayahuasca. They say the question that science is asking is, how did they come up with the two plants to put together? The chances of you know,
stumbling
trial and error with this to come with these two plants. But what the shamans would say, that originally the medicine spoke to one of their master shamans in a dream, and it told them about the two plants to put together. So that's how they would talk about coming up with these with the ayahuasca. They say that it came to a shaman in a dream. So he went and he picked the vine and the chacruna leaves, boiled them all together. He was told how to do it in a dream. So that's how they would believe they came up with the medicine, like, you know. Okay,
you reminded me of something there when you said that you boiled up the mixture of these two plants. You reminded me of something that came up in the blog. During the blog, you said that you would have had or different people would have had varying degrees of experiences. Some guys, you know, didn't have much of an experience. Other guys were fucking out of it.
Yeah.
And that got me thinking, if you're in the Amazon and you're, presumably this is, when you say it's boiled, presumably it's in like a big pot over an open fire.
Over an open fire, yeah.
So the measurement isn't going to be like each cup. The reason someone had more of an experience than someone else could very possibly be down to the fact that there was more DMT in that cup than there was the other cup.
Well, you see, when everyone's drinking, you wouldn't be given the same amount. You see, the shamans work on the spiritual level. They would say that they can read your energy levels, and that's how they would describe it. And they would say, like, I only ever got a half a cup. I never needed any more than a half cup, and I was, you know, that was the most I ever needed. But some people drank 2 cups and didn't get the experience I got. Like, but the shaman will know how much he needs to give you. You know, so each person can have different, or will get a different measurement of ayahuasca.
I'd love to know what they base that on, or have you any idea what they're basing it on? Do they need to interact with you to decide, or to decide?
Well, the thing is, you're not allowed. You have to, where your mattress is from the minute you get there, that's where it stays. You can't sit on this mattress one night and sit on that another mattress the other night or whatever. So unless when Percy's, you know, drinking the ayahuasca, maybe he's already on the medicine when he comes in, and he kind of can see a visual field, is what I would imagine it is.
Okay, so
he sees an energy field.
So he does take DMT
He's
with
taking the
you.
ayahuasca with you, absolutely. Because originally, before we in the West kind of started to go over there, the ceremonies would have been done where the shaman drank the medicine, and the sick person from the village or from whatever tribe or that would have been there, and they never drank. So the shaman drank the medicine, and then he would have came back with the cure, and he would have told them exactly what plants they needed or whatever it was they needed for the cure of their illness.
Yeah.
So that was originally how it was done, but it was as more and more people started to go over from the West, the Westerners then began to drink it, like, you know. But what the shamans would say is that the plant is now beginning, because the planet is suffering in such a way, because, you know, again, as we said, there's so much suffering in the world, there's so much spiritual sickness in the world, that the plant is now beginning to move out across the world to heal it, because, you know, we're in danger of fucking this world up, aren't we? Like, you know, the things we're doing, we're drilling it to bits, we're fucking letting off nuclear bombs on it, we're absolutely destroying the world, and if we keep going the way we're going to obliterate things. And that's, you know, what a lot of the shamans would say, that the medicine is now coming out to interact with people, to I guess wake people up. You know, that's what we talk about. We talk about there's an awakening happening on the planet. You know, and that awakening is being fueled by the psychedelics, because what they're saying is these psychedelics have a spirit, and what they're now coming out and saying is, yous monkeys are about to wreck the place, so we need to waken you up to what you're here for, because yous are going down a bad path.
Should we be relying on what people in the jungle taking drugs are warning us about? If that makes sense, do you know what I mean? I mean,
well, we don't seem to be listening to anything else. We don't seem to be listening to the fact that, you know, we're now having extreme weather patterns and all of them kind of things. We don't seem to be listening to the fact that, you know, there's a madman over in America now with his finger on a nuclear bomb. Like, are we listening is the question. Are these people listening? Have these people got a connection to spirit and to nature that we've forgotten about? And why are we now in a world where so many, 1 in 3 people in the world, in the Western world, are on antidepressants? Why is that? Why do they not need antidepressants? You know, we talk about us being, you know, a more advanced civilization, but, you know, it depends on your perspective on life, doesn't it? And it depends on what you call advanced. Sure, we've got televisions in our sitting rooms and we've got mobile phones in our pockets and all of that, but as I said to you earlier, you know, with the guide that was on Machu Picchu, he says, you know, which brings you more happiness? Does the television bring you more happiness, or does sitting under a billion stars every night bring you more happiness? It's all about perspective, isn't it?
no, absolutely.
We believe that we're, you know, progressing at an alarming rate, but then why are so many people, you know, as we said, you know, depressed? Why are they obese? You know, the latest studies that are coming out now with children who were born when smartphones are always around, we're beginning to see that they've got no social interaction skills. We're beginning to see that they're highly depressed, that the suicide rates are going through the roof with these kids. That doesn't sound like progress, does it, really, if you think about it?
No, but it is. Has the world gotten to where it is, and will it continue to get worse and worse because we're not taking DMT? Like, is our lack of taking psychedelics, is that what do you think that's a big problem with the world? That we're not taking, that worldwide we don't take enough psychedelics, and that's why things are as bad as they are?
Well, look, to be honest with you, like, when you think back, as I said to you, you know, every tribe and every culture has used a different plant medicine, and one of their things would have been when you were in around 16 years of age, it was an initiatory rite. There was a big healing ceremony done. You became 16, and you took the psychedelic plants or whatever. So you took the plant medicines, where you became a part of the tribe, where you begin to understand nature and your role in it. We seem to think that we can control nature, you know, and is that because we're not having these rites of passage anymore? You know, that certainly has to be a question that needs to be asked. And I'm certainly not saying that, you know, everybody needs to go out and do psychedelics and the world is going to be a better place. All I can tell you is that, you know, a massive amount of people that are going and doing these psychedelics are coming back talking about healing the planet. They're talking about healing themselves. They're talking about trying to live life in a different way that doesn't have such a big impact on the planet. So, the proof is in that situation. The proof is is there, is it not? Then that people are coming back with a different a different mind frame. The materialistic lifestyle that so many of us have bought into, that seems to crumble when you do these psychedelic plants. So surely that's a good thing, is it not?
Oh no, absolutely.
In a world that seems to be falling apart.
Yeah, but I would blame. I suppose what's wrong with the world more to do with the fact that we've lost our sense of community. And I mean, even this, like me and you chatting here, having this recording.
Yeah.
Before I started making recordings with people,
Yeah.
I didn't have conversation in my life.
Yeah.
I had chit chat and small talk. Jesus Christ, if I ever had to endure another 2 seconds of small talk, but I feel that our loss of our sense of being part of a community, our loss of having a sense of purpose in the world, and a whole host of other reasons has left us the way it is. I certainly don't think it's because we're not doing as much psychedelics as we used to.
Well, no, I'm not saying that it's solely just down to not doing psychedelics. What I'm saying is that psychedelics certainly are going to act as a healing medicine for a planet that is disillusioned at the minute, that is definitely seems to be going in the wrong direction. I believe that's the one thing, that's the only thing, because as I said, we've seen all the different catastrophes that are happening. They're happening so often now that they're just, oh, did you see that happen there the other day or whatever? Like, it's just another thing that's just happened. And the only thing that seems to be waking people up with that instant wake up, like a click of a finger, is a psychedelic experience.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned the age there, that it was, I don't know if you just picked 16 as a random number.
No, 16 was kind of when they would have said that they were ready to become adults and be an integral part of the tribe. That's when you would have taken the psychedelic. It was an initiatory rite in an awful lot of these tribes, and I'm not saying every tribe, but a big majority of the tribes, that would have been your initiatory rite, would have been a psychedelic experience, whether it be a mushroom or whether it be ayahuasca or whichever one it was.
Do you feel there's a need to, if you were to reintroduce something like that, to push it out to 25, 26 years of age, given that, to my understanding at least, that's the age when the scientific community is fairly well agreed upon your brain has developed forming. So, taking any kind of drug, especially I suppose a psychedelic or any powerful drug, should be maybe not taken at all up until you're that age, 25, 26.
Yeah, I guess, if the science comes out to support that, then absolutely, again, as I said, I do want to see good science done on this, but I'm also looking at the other science where it's kind of saying that the psilocybin and all of them, these things aren't having the effect on our brains that we were maybe led to believe from the 60s and other times like that. Like, what they're saying now is that there's not that thing on your brain whatsoever. That's what they seem to be coming. That's the data that seems to be coming out at the minute. But absolutely, if the data comes out to say that 16 is not a good age to be doing this, and maybe 21 is a good age to be doing it and better for your brain, then absolutely, I certainly wouldn't go against the science if that's what it comes out with. But again, You're talking about these scientists who are looking at these compounds for the first times, or you're talking about these indigenous tribes that have had experience using them for 5,000 or more years. There's cave art in the likes of France, in the likes of Siberia, in all of these places. Some of the cave art that are drawn on the walls, I'm sure you've probably seen some of them.
Absolutely, yeah.
But they are 100% psychedelic experiences. They're the same visuals you're seeing on the psychedelics. They're the same everything, and they're so that shows you how long we've been using these plant medicines. So I would put my faith in a culture that's used something for 5,000 years rather than maybe science, who's only just in its very infancy with these compounds.
You lost me there slightly on the cave painting connection with psychedelics.
I was saying that, yeah, so what they're now beginning to understand with a lot of the cave paintings, that they are they're drawings of psychedelic experiences. So they were maybe shamans who used these plant medicines and then went and drew them on the walls. I'm sure you've seen the one I'm nearly sure it's in France, and they think it's about They think it's about 15,000 years old, and it's a bee. So it's a bee, but it's done in a human form, and the bee has literally, its whole body is covered in magic mushrooms. And what the bee is a representation of the honey, because psychedelic magic mushrooms, how the tribes and how cultures would have preserved these psychedelics would have been in honey.
Okay.
So that's the representation, and that's what they're now beginning to understand with these drawings on the wall, that a lot of them were just psychedelic experience. That's just the reason I was given that example was to show how long these plants have been used by different cultures throughout the world. Terence McKenna has a very interesting theory called the stoned ape theory, and his theory is that it's the bridge between consciousness. So 200,000 years ago, our brains obviously began to double in size, and we began to become a lot more conscious and stuff, and that, and his theory on it is that 200,000 years at the end of the last ice age, as the monkeys would have been up in the trees in Africa. Now, I'll probably butcher this a little bit.
No, I'm familiar with it, so between the two of us we'll get there.
Right, yeah, but it would have been that 200,000 years ago, the primates would have lived in the trees, and as the ice sheets began to recede and come down, it would have had an effect on their habitat and stuff. So with the ice sheets melting and that, they would have come down out of the trees, and they began to kind of forage round on the ground rather than being in the trees. And what some of the things they were doing was hunting. They were maybe, they were following cows and things like that. And psilocybin mushrooms grows out of cow shit. That's where magic mushrooms grow from. And what they say, what his theory on it would be, was that as the monkeys were coming along and they were finding different food sources, that they would have been stumbling across these mushrooms. So the monkeys would have then started ingesting the mushrooms, and at a small dose of mushrooms, your vision becomes better, which would have made you better, which would have made you more capable of hunting, and it would have made you, it would have made you the stronger tribe, I guess is what you say. At the next higher dose of mushrooms, it makes you fucking horny, I guess is the word you'd use for it, so they would have said that would have sported a big population growth. And then at even higher doses of magic mushrooms, you would have been inducing these mystical experiences of God, experiences of the transcendent. And what they then would have been doing was, through that then we began to develop language. We began to these drawings on the cave arts and all of these kind of things. And that's, again, I'm not saying he's right, but there seems to be an awful lot of people, like mycologist Paul Stamets. He's the lead mycologist in the world at the minute, and
mycology is mushroom.
Mycology is mushrooms.
Okay.
He's the leading mushroom expert in the world at the minute, and not always psychedelic mushrooms. He believes that this fungus has unbelievable healing properties. For getting rid of nuclear waste, for getting rid of all of these things, and you should definitely check him out. But his findings are starting to, like, he's the lead man at this, and he would believe that that's kind of how consciousness began to expand. As I was saying, like 200,000, science has no reason for why we went from being monkeys to being conscious beings. And Terence McKenna's theory on it is exactly that the psilocybin mushrooms in the grasslands of Africa, as the monkeys ingested them, it began to open consciousness, and we developed language, we developed all of them kind of things. So I guess that's his theory on it, so.
Yeah, no, it's a very interesting. It is a very interesting theory. So again, coming back to your first full day there.
Yeah.
We'll fast forward to the night.
Yeah.
So can you walk me through it? Like, presumably you were told to meet at a certain time. I mean, have you got your watch on you? Did you bring a phone? Do you have a laptop?
Yeah, like you'd have your phone in that which or whatever, but you wouldn't have had any signal, but you knew what time it was, like, yeah. But usually maybe I think about an hour before ceremony, they would have been just come round to tell you, look, ceremony's in about an hour or so, kind of get yourself ready, and you'd bring your blanket up with you, and you'd go up to the Maloka probably a half an hour or so before the ceremony starts, and everyone would be kind of just in there, and just you'd be getting ready as night was kind of falling down, and then obviously Percy'd come in usually, I suppose, around 7 o'clock and that, and sure he would do a cleaning cleaning of the energies again in the place using the mapacho smoke, and there's a certain type of wood they burn. It would be, I guess, smell a little bit like incense, but it would be more native to the Amazon or Peru. Yeah, okay. So they would burn that again as another one of their sacraments, like, you know. So they'd use that, and everyone would kind of sit down in the Maloka, lights would go out or whatever, and then one by one you'd be called up to go up and drink the ayahuasca. So obviously starting to his left and working around the circle, like, you know. And you'd each go up, you drink the ayahuasca or whatever, and then you'd go back down on your mattress, and you'd kind of wait then for the ceremony to begin.
And how long does it take from you ingesting the ayahuasca to anything happening, really, or that you're aware of?
It's usually about 40 minutes, but I better tell you, the taste of the ayahuasca is, I mean, if you can think of something vile, multiply it by 100, and that's what that tastes like. I've heard it described as, before I went out there, as a cross between battery acid and petrol, and that's exactly the only thing. Even now, when I think about drinking it, I heave. Like, it's not a nice drink to drink, that's for sure. Yeah.
And the two substances you mentioned there are very man-made. I was expecting you to say that they tasted like shit, or like mushrooms.
No,
mushrooms taste like shit.
Mushrooms are a joy to eat after drinking these yolks. Drinking this, it is absolutely, I can't describe it properly to you. It's just.
And what is it that you're tasting? Do you think?
Bitter. I don't know. I'm not too sure.
Because it's not necessarily DMT.
I have heard other people say they drank it and it tasted fine, you know. But right. I don't know. The majority of people I've heard that say they've drank it say it tastes like absolute dirt. It's hard to describe.
And what kind of volume are you talking? Like, is it a shot glass or a pint glass or
it
what?
It would be the equivalent. The cup, I guess. The cup, as we said. Yeah, well, sure. For, I suppose people are only listening, I'm trying to show you with my fingers here, but yeah, it would probably be maybe the cup might be, you know, I suppose your standard tea cup. Do you know what I mean? Not like your coffee cup, like your standard tea cup would be the size of it. Okay. And then each person's given
the fill of that, or
well, different depending. People are tea. Some of the guys I was with, they would have drank full cups. I was only ever drinking half cup, so it all depends on how much Percy gives you, you know.
And that's dependent on what aura he sees around
exactly.
you.
Well, again, you know, I know that sounds a bit wooey or whatever, and it probably does, but that's what he would describe it as. Yeah, that's what he would describe it as. But he seemed to always get the dose right for everybody. And
from I'm trying to put myself in your shoes. You've had this idea in your head for maybe a couple of years. You've researched it to the last. You're finally fucking there. You've dragged a couple of poor unfortunate lads with you. Yeah. You're after drinking it. It's the worst thing you've ever drank in your life. Was there was there ever an element of, what the fuck am I doing here? Or, this could go bad? Or do you trust this Percy fucker? Or
yeah, to be honest, as I said, from doing the DMT before I'd gone there, you know, I knew somewhat to expect, not exactly everything to expect, but I knew what I was getting myself into. Like, you know, I knew what it was. I'd had mushroom experiences before that where I'd taken high doses of mushrooms where it got quite intense, so I kind of felt, you know, it couldn't have got much more intense than them, so I'd probably get through it, you know. I guess, to be honest, what ended up happening wasn't what I expected, I suppose, either. You know, as each ceremony progressed, I suppose maybe it was, but yeah, you know, definitely not. There definitely wasn't fear. Like, I don't think I guess with anything, you're always, you know, no matter what drug I've ever taken in my life, you're always a bit apprehensive, you know, will something go wrong, or, you know, will everything be okay, like, you know. But I think as soon as I drank it, I felt, okay, right, it's done now, you know, whatever fears I was having, or whatever kind of, you know, nervousness that I was having was kind of, you know, it was gone at that stage, like, you know. And it was just about just sitting down and, you know, putting my faith in the medicine and believing in everything else that I've read, and, you know, all the different stories that I've read from different people who've taken the medicine and all of that. So you kind of keep telling yourself them, you keep telling yourself the positive experiences that different people have had, and the different positive experiences I've had from taking psychedelics before in my life, like, you know. So I guess that's, you know, what got rid of any of the fears I may have had.
And have you at this point, or had you had at that point bad psychedelic experiences on mushrooms or DMT
Yeah,
or
I
otherwise?
had, yeah, I had on mushrooms and I had on acid, but again, you know, it was set and setting.
And so you mentioned that earlier, and I'm familiar with
Yeah,
myself, but if you can just expand on that to people who
yeah.
mightn't be
Well,
familiar
the
with it.
setting is like, you know, the majority of people who'll have a bad experience on a psychedelic is when, you know, when it's been done at a party, when it's been done where people are drinking and it's been done where people are partying, and then you're taking these psychedelics and it's opening a part of your consciousness that you're certainly not prepared for in that situation. And if you think about it, if you are seeing, if you've taken mushrooms at a party and you begin to see a spirit or what you might think is a, you know, an entity in front of you, like, what are you going to do other than freak out, like, you know? So with setting, it's all about, you know, knowing what you're doing, knowing what the plant is and what the story is behind the plant. You know, I guess your set then is being in a place where you're comfortable, where, you know, you're relaxed. You've maybe got, you know, your own music. It's not at a party. It's with people maybe who've had these experiences before, who kind of know what they're getting involved in. So, you know, that's your setting. And it's about going in with the right intentions as well.
But you're to have. So, am I right in saying this, that your set is essentially the room that you're in and that you're familiar and you're comfortable with, and your setting is your mind frame.
Your
that you're
mind
in the right
frame.
place.
Yeah, that you're in the right place. Yeah.
How is being surrounded by strangers in the middle of a jungle, taking a drug that you'd never really taken before? I know you had done DMT before, but you hadn't done like an ayahuasca ceremony before. How could that be the right set? Or
Well, I was there with three of my mates, like, you know, and as I said, I'd done the research, and I understood that I was with an experienced shaman, like a shaman that came from a long lineage of other shamans. He started drinking ayahuasca when he was 14. I think he's 40 now, like, you know, so this is what he does, like, you know. So I had every faith in him. I'd done my research, I'd done all of them things. I didn't walk out into the jungle and just pick up a shaman at the airport and just say, "You're not a shaman, are you? Do you want to go out and drink some ayahuasca?" Like, I'd done my research, so I'd prepared for my setting. Like, you know, I knew I was going to somewhere where healing had happened before, and with somebody who was very trusted and somebody who's very well respected within the shamanic community, like, you know.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you've taken your teacup full or half teacup full. You sit down. Were you expecting it to kind of hit you because you had smoked it previously? And my understanding of when you smoke DMT, it hits you like a brick, instant. Basically, as you say, instant.
When you smoke DMT, you literally, me and you could smoke DMT now, and in 15 minutes we'd be back to exactly normal as we are. It is the strongest psychedelic on the planet, and yet it sends you on a rocket ship to what everybody describes as another dimension.
Yeah.
15 minutes later, you're back to base. No other drug on the planet can do that to you. No other drug. But the difference with drinking ayahuasca and smoking DMT is that the ayahuasca is an 8-hour ceremony, and the DMT is, it's, as I said, it's a 15-minute rocket ship.
When you smoke it.
Yeah. Now, my feeling is that with the ayahuasca, there's so much more learning involved in it. There's so much more healing involved in it. The DMT is something that if you want to have a look at a different reality, you can smoke that and it'll give you that, but it doesn't give you the same insights. It doesn't give you the same introspection to your life. It doesn't give you any of the lessons that the ayahuasca gives you. What it makes you do is believe that this reality we live in is definitely not the only reality that's out there.
Yeah.
But but where the ayahuasca is much more of a healing thing. The ayahuasca will show you, you know, the things you've maybe done bad in your life, how you've maybe treated people in your life, and it'll show you how they felt when you were doing what you were doing, which can absolutely change the way you want to live your life.
So you sit back down onto your mattress.
Yeah.
And how long does it take to go round the circle? So presumably you take turns on drinking.
Drinking, yeah.
So
yeah. So it can take
10
20 minutes.
20? Okay.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, about, you see, again, you know, as you said, like, you're not really checking your watch too often. Like,
Yeah,
but I
course.
suppose, you know, if everyone's up there for, you know, 2 minutes or whatever, and you have 12 people, maybe probably about 20 minutes, a little under 20 minutes, I'd imagine. So between first and last person drinking.
And where else? I was just going to ask you, where were you in that pecking order? Were you
I
first,
was probably
last?
half. I was literally directly across, so I was kind of nearly straight across from Percy. So I would have been halfway there. Yeah.
Okay, so
maybe 6, maybe 5 or 6 in the circle, I suppose.
So that'd put you 20 minutes ahead of the first person that took it. Am I right in saying that?
20 minutes after the first person that took it. Well,
yes,
I suppose 10 minutes after the first person that took it.
Okay, so if you're 10 minutes after
10
the
minutes
first...
before the last.
But if you're 10 minutes after the first person taking it, and it takes about 40 minutes to kick in, what I'm trying to get a feel for is, are you, or would the last guy to take it be sitting there watching somebody else trip balls?
It's a very it like any psychedelic you ever take, they usually come in waves.
Yes, I found that. Yeah.
It's a gradual build up, and then it'll ease off a little, and then it gets stronger, and then it eases off, and then it gets stronger, and it eases off, and then boosh, you're away, but you've, from the minute the last person stops drinking, Percy starts singing the Icaros, and he's got this shikapra, which is this kind of fan he uses, and it kind of makes a sound of and he's using that then again, to sing the healing songs for people, and that's what kind of eases you in your when the visions get quite intense. That's what keeps you grounded. The Icaros are what keeps you kind of grounded in reality, that you listen into them, and they bring you back, but Percy has a lady that sings with him, and she has been taught these Icaros as well by the plants, and she does most of his singing. Matilda is her name, and she has a voice like it's very hard to describe, but the sounds that woman can hit, and the healing that woman produces in people is, again, it's something you have to see to believe. I'm sure a lot of people listening, probably think a lot of this is bullshit, but then it's different when you've been there and you've seen the healing. Like, I seen women go out there who are probably my mother's age, who'd never had a drink in their life, go out and drink the strongest psychedelic known to man, and I seen them women go through some of the hardest emotions that are humanly possible to go through, but every one of them women walked out of there healed and grateful for life again, grateful for getting rid of whatever them emotions that they'd bottled up over the years, and all of them things were. And that's why I talk about healing, again, at the start, and then we kind of went off the subject. I was telling you about my hand.
Yes.
So I had 20 stitches in my hand, and on the first night I seen, so as the vision started coming on, it was as if, I was lying back on my mattress or whatever, and it was as if this, it was like this kind of machine came over me, and all of a sudden, there was just these 4, what I can only describe as entities. That's all, it's very hard to find a language for this, and that's what most people will always say after they've done psychedelics. We don't really have the language to put this experience out there properly. There's no language to describe it really, but I can only describe them as entities, and they were, all of a sudden they were working on my hand. But before I'd gone in there and drank, I'd had 20 stitches in my hand 15 days before that, so I couldn't move my thumb. I couldn't, my thumb was in a cast up until then, and I couldn't move my thumb any more than that there, very,
just a mil or two,
just a mil or two, very, very little, and I could see these 4 spirits working on me. And as I left, when the ceremony was finished that night, I walked out of that Maloka, and I made a full fist, no problem with my hand whatsoever. I asked the doctor, I had to come back when I got back from there, I went to the doctor in Navan, because I had to get a report done for work back in Australia to get the case closed off or whatever. And I said it to her, I said, look, this is what I'm after doing or whatever. I said, can you explain how that happened, and she said to me, I have no explanation as to how that happened. If you had 20 stitches in your hand 15 days before that, she goes, oh, well, I don't know. And she just brushed it aside and just went on writing out whatever she had to write out.
And what do you think happened there?
I'm not sure. I can only tell you what my experience was. My experience was that I seen 4 entities working on my hand, and I walked out of there able to make a full fist afterwards.
Were you told? Because I mean, if you had had 20 odd stitches 15 days previous, it would have been fairly obvious to Percy and whoever else that was there that you had an injured
I had
hand.
a cast on my hand,
Oh,
so I
okay.
had a plastic protective cast on my hand going in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, was there mention prior to having done the ceremony that your hand will be better afterwards, or
No, nothing
or
like that.
anything of the sort?
On the first day of the baths and stuff like that. So when you're talking to Percy, this is before you drink. We each go in there with our intentions, I suppose. So Percy wants to know, what's your intention for drinking ayahuasca? What are you looking for healing for? What are you looking for? Anything like, what is it that you're here for? Like, And I never even mentioned my hand. Like, to be honest with you, like, I said that, look, I'm out to find meaning in life. Like, I want to find, what's my purpose in this life. Like, that's what I asked for. But I never mentioned my hand.
Yeah.
But as I said on the first ceremony, it was like these four entities that came, that's what I could see in my vision, like, and they were working on my hand for what seemed like 10 minutes or so, 10, 15 minutes, and then they began to work on, they asked me had I any other injuries, and I was like, and this is all done in your own mind, like, it's nearly your own mind asking you, do you know what I mean? It's as if it's telepathically done, like, these entities are there, and they're speaking through your mind, yeah.
Yeah.
They're asking you the question, is there any more injuries? And I said, no, not that I know of. And it seemed like they worked down on my lower back for what seemed like maybe 30 seconds. And then that was gone, like,
And when you say they worked on your lower back and they worked on your hand, and I know the words will probably fail you, as they tend to fail everyone who speaks to these experiences. Like, were they, stitching your hand? Were they touching your hand?
No, it's just a feeling. It's nearly like it's a knowing.
Yeah,
it's
sense.
Nearly like it's a sense. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like a knowing that's what they're doing. They were working on my hand, like they were all fixated on my hand, like, and it was whatever was happening there, whatever healing was happening there, they were doing what they were doing, and at the same time there's other visuals going on around you, like, it's nearly like they're distracting you from the actual healing that's going on, and they're showing you these visions or whatever, and that's as a distraction, really, like, but you're seeing what's going on around you, like,
And can you describe the other visuals that you saw, or again, do words fail you, or?
To be honest with you, I suppose, and this is
sorry
is
to
where
cut across you,
the
but
story
are you in complete darkness?
complete
now for this?
darkness. Everything's in complete darkness.
Okay.
All with the psychedelics, all the work is done internally. So you're going inside, like, you're going in. It's done in the dark. That's where you get the visuals from, like, I guess my and this is the weird part of the story, I guess. Like, my visuals for the first night were absolutely horrendous. Like, they were absolutely hellish, is the only way I can describe them, and they were very, very demonic, kind of sexual kind of visuals. So they were, like, they certainly weren't nice anyway, like, and I began to question. Then all of a sudden I was like, this is like the fucking devil, to be honest with you. Like, what the hell am I after doing here? Like, I'm after telling everybody, at home, and, I'm after bringing my three mates out here, and I'm after telling them that, this is going to be a lovely spiritual experience and all this, and I was getting these, straight from hell visuals, like, and that was the first 2 nights, really, like, we obviously, after each night of the 8 hours, you're in there for maybe about 6 hours, I suppose, and they do a personal healing over you at the end of each night or whatever, like, So I left there the first night, and I was like, geez, that's fucking not at all what I was expecting, like, and the other lads have been getting kind of nicer visuals, and other people were getting nicer visuals, and I was like, the fuck is all this about, like, this isn't what I signed up for, really, like,
Yeah.
So kind of that happened the first night, and then the second night again, that kind of happened, So the second night was the night where, as I said to you, one of the guys that was with me, where the darkness kind of came into the Maloka, like, And what ended up happening was after he seen the shaman kind of moving this energy out of the Maloka and kind of pushing it out the door, he started to feel like violently sick, like, so he went out into the toilet, and he said he was actually spewing his guts up out the toilet, or into the bucket, and actually it was coming out of him, diarrhea out the toilet, like, you know. And so he kind of said at the time, he was just like, it just felt like this, like, badness coming out of him. That's the only way he could really describe it. Like, he said it was like badness coming out of him. So he was coming back in, and he just says, right, fuck it. He says, I'm going to get another cup of this, and I'm going to just see exactly what's going on. So he went up, got another cup of the ayahuasca off Percy, and he went down and he lay on his mattress. And he said, as soon as he started to lay down or whatever, he said all of a sudden he started going through what he could only describe as just dimensions, like, you know, just a portal. And all of a sudden, exactly like the DMT, it was as if he kind of broke free. And what he describes as Mother Ayahuasca, and it's the same description that everybody else who has this experience describes it as, like, you know. And she said, welcome back, old friend, why you've been away for so long. And she went on to explain to him that, you know, he struggled a lot through his life with drink and drugs and all of them kind of things, like. And she told him that they're the demons in you that we all carry around with us. Every single one of us carry around these demons with us, and how the demons survive is that we feed them. So the more drink and the more drugs and the more shitty food and the more of all of them kind of things that we, you know, that we put into our bodies, that's how you feed your demons. And the only way to feed, or the only way to kill your demons, is to starve them. So she explained all of this to him, and she said, look, you know, the things you've done in your life have all been part of your path. They've all been part of the evolution of your soul. And she kind of then more or less told him that now he needed to go and get rid of them, the rest of them kind of demons. So, you know, again, as I said, he had a purge. So he went back out, and he said he purged an awful lot of that out. But that all kind of happened to him over the second night. And as I said to you, I was getting all the demonic shit. Like, I was like, this is fucked. I was with my best mate came at me, and I was telling him, me and him kind of had gone back to our hut before John came back, and I was just like, fuck.
Sorry, this is the first night.
This is the second night.
Okay, second night, yeah.
This is the second night, and I was saying to my mate, like, I said, I'm out here. I says, this is a load of bullshit. I says, I'm not doing this fucking. I said, this isn't what I thought it was going to be.
Sorry, just to be clear, this is you after having two bad trips, basically.
Two bad trips or whatever. Yeah,
okay,
yeah. So 2 bad trips, and we were back down in the hut talking, and all of a sudden the door kicks open, like, you know, and John comes in, and he's got tears rolling down his face, and he's got a smile like you can't even imagine. And he grabs me and he starts hugging me and he's thanking me for bringing him out there. And I'm like, I'm fucking out here. I says, what are you on about? And he's like, what? And I says, nah, fuck this. I says, this isn't what I thought it is. I says, I'm out here, like. And he's there, whoa. He says, sit down here till I tell you a story. He says, if any cunt needs to get this experience, it's you, after bringing all of us out here. So he obviously proceeded to tell me that story or whatever. And I says, right. I says, look, I said, I'm drinking it once more, and I says, after that, I'm done. I says, I'm not doing it again. If I get the same again, I said, I'm out here. I was missing my girlfriend, you know, I had been on this diet for 6 fucking weeks, so I had eaten nothing other than lettuce, so I was like, nah, fuck this. So I says, right, I'll do the third ceremony, and I says, if it doesn't go any better, I'm done. So on the third day, we came down, or on the third day, the shaman came down, and he was doing he was showing us how to make the shikapras, you know, the thing I was telling you that he uses the fan type thing, yeah. So he was showing us how to make the shikapras or whatever, and at the end of it, he was going to sing an Icaro over us, right? So I was sitting there, and everyone, so you lay down and he done an individual Icaro over you. So I was lying down there and he's singing this Icaro over me, and he's got the fan blowing, he's got the smoke going in my face, the whole shebang, like, you know. And all of a sudden, this thought started flooding my brain like at 100 miles an hour. It was saying, you're here to heal for somebody. You're here to heal for somebody. It's somebody who's been sexually abused, that, you know. That's what you're here to heal for. And I was like, what the fuck? So then that kind of part of the thing was open, and we went back up to the hut, like, you know. So I was kind of telling John, and John was saying, well, because I in my head was going, is that just the ego kind of making this up? Like, am I kind of, you know, am I just imagining that, or you know, is it really happening? And John was saying, well, look, you need to figure it out then or whatever. So I went to Morrow, who was the translator for Percy, and I said, look, I says, I want to have a meeting with Percy, and I obviously need you to be there because I need to talk to him. I need to try and figure this all out, like, you know. So he says, right, after the flower bath today, I'll organise for Percy to have a meeting with you. So we done the flower baths, and everyone kind of went back up to their huts or whatever, and it was kind of me, Morrow and Percy that were there. And I says, look, I says, all I'm seeing is absolute hellish. I says, the visions are all just sexually demonic. They're all, I says, it's bullshit, to be honest with you. And he goes, Percy said to me, he said, you know, have you ever been molested as a child? And I said, no. I says, I never was, like, you know. He says, was anyone close to you? And I said, I was. And he says, you're here to heal for them. He asked me.
So you said I was. There was
somebody, okay, you know, that I would be very close to that had been sexually abused, you know, and he, you know, he said to me, I was there to heal for them. Right. So I was there going, right. So that was, you know, you can imagine that was kind of, I was like, right, okay then. So I got speaking to him, and I said, look, I've been doing this diet for 6 weeks, and he says, look, he says, everybody, this plant, this spirit calls people out here, and that's why you've been called out here, is to heal for that person. So I said, right, so what do I kind of need to do? And he said, or when you're drinking the ayahuasca, you need to keep that person's name in your intentions. That's what you need to keep saying that you're drinking for. That's the person you're here to drink for, like, you know. So this was on the third ceremony then. I went in, and we were getting our cups, so I was keeping that person in my intentions or whatever. But up until then, the 2 nights before that, everybody else had been purging, either getting sick in their bucket around me, or, you know, diarrhea down the toilet. You know, that's the purge. Nothing, not a bit, right? And we, you know, obviously I was talking to all the lads, like, and they were saying, look, you're probably after doing the fucking diet. Your body doesn't need the purge. We're all purging because we've been eating steaks and drinking cans of Coke the day before we got here. But you've obviously been on the diet, so you don't need it, like, you know. So I literally, on the third day then, I drank the cup, was keeping that person in my intentions or whatever. And all of a sudden, there was like that kind of machine was put over me again, and it didn't seem like they were focusing on any one area or whatever, but it just felt like them entities were there again, and they were just thinking. It was much shorter than the last time. And then all of a sudden, my stomach just began to gurgle. Like, I was like, oh, right. And then I started going, jeez, am I just tripping now or a thing? And then it just went like it was bubbling, and I went, fuck, I need to get to the toilet, you know. Yeah. So got me light, got out to the toilet, and all of a sudden, literally, never once did I get sick out there. Everything came through the other end. Right. Yeah. And it was nasty. It was not nice, to be honest with you. It wasn't nice. Like, so this went on for a while, and then so kind of done what I had to do, was coming out, and I was walking kind of in the Maloka. It's all, so everything's done in a wooden structure. So outside the kind of Maloka, there's pathways done down to the toilet or whatever, like, you know, and it's all just made out of wooden sticks and stuff, like, you know. Right. So I was just literally just standing there, and all of a sudden it was like my hands were glued onto it. I literally couldn't move from it, and the visions I was getting the most hellish demonic visions that I can ever describe. It looked like I was standing at the gates of hell. That's what it looked like. And I literally could see that demon that fucking molested that person. That's what it felt like to me. And I sat for a good hour. Everyone the next day was telling me that they could hear me. I was spitting down at the cunt, so I was. And
verbally or physically? Or
physically. Like, I was highly on the ayahuasca at this stage, like, you know, and the visions, I could see it there, like, you know, and it was right in front of me or whatever. So I was standing out there, like, John came out with me, and he was standing, and I was kind of telling him what had kind of happened, and he was there. We were talking for ages, like, just chatting through things, going through things. So he stood with me for ages, and then he went in, and then Morrow came out, and he was like, look, I know what you're going through. This is hard that you're going through, but, you know, what you're doing is good, like, you know. So this went on for, I don't know how long I was out there for. I guess it was maybe an hour or two. So the ceremony's still going on inside. People are going through just experiences in there, like, you know. So at the very end of it then, they came out for me, and they brought me through this personal healing. at the end of every ceremony they do a personal healing on you, like, you know.
Yeah.
So I was kind of brought in, and I was on my mattress. So I'm kneeling down on the end of my mattress, and the lady Matilda, she literally puts these chimes. She's got these chimes, right, and she puts these chimes over my head, and she starts blowing the smoke at me, and she's singing this Icaro over my head, and literally like that, it went from the absolute pits of hell to what I can only describe as absolutely heaven. I got transported through these different dimensions, or what seems like different dimensions, whatever you want to call it, like, but through these different dimensions, and I broke through. And when I came up, there was just all these entities around me, and I'm literally on the edge of my mattress, rattling. I'm just shaking, right? And
with euphoria, say.
With euphoria, with energy like I've never felt. I felt like at that time I could have picked this planet up, scrunched it into a ball and kicked it the far side of the universe. I've never felt energy like it. So I'm lying there, and I'm, you know, this is all going on around me, and all of a sudden this lion comes to me, and the lion is done. It's all done in the colours of the chakras. So half and half done in the colours of the chakras. But it's broken down into, I guess, little geometric patterns. And each little pattern is another lion. And this lion is roaring in my face. And this woman, she's got these chimes playing over my head. And the whole works is going on, like, you know. And when she finishes and she lifts the chime off, whatever, I literally just collapsed down on my mattress. I was literally I wrecked after it, like, absolutely wrecked after it. And when I spoke to Percy, you know, afterwards or whatever, like, he said to me that each one of us has a spirit animal, and that was my spirit animal coming to me. That line came to me during that ceremony. So that was the third ceremony that we done, and afterwards, then we were kind of back down to the hut or whatever. But from then on, every night that I sat on the thing afterwards, my visuals were going on 12 hours. Everyone else's were probably maybe doing 6 or 7, but mine were going on for 12 hours of celestial, I guess, gods is all you can really call them, like, you know. And
if your visuals were going on for 12 plus hours, that would have brought you into daylight hours.
Daylight. I was still, so every day afterwards there would be a circle where everyone would go up. Everyone would have slept, and they would have went up, and they'd be sharing their experiences and all of that kind of stuff, like. But I was going up there not having slept, like, you know. I was sleeping, literally, I wouldn't sleep till maybe 7 o'clock that evening, and 7 or maybe 8 o'clock that evening, and then I'd be awake again at 5 o'clock the next morning to go be drinking ayahuasca again. Like, I wasn't getting much sleep out there. I was eating loads because the boys weren't eating much of the food, but I was eating loads, like, but I wasn't getting much sleep out there, you know. But my visuals definitely seem very different than the majority of people that were there, especially, well, definitely the lads I was with anyway, like, you know.
The visuals, if you're in complete darkness, I'd imagine the visuals appear to you in the same sense that dreams appear to people when they're asleep. You're kind of in it, but if you're awake and it's bright, like, do the things you see, you know, walk on the ground? Are they, you know, in the sky? Are they in a different dimension? Or
I would imagine, you know, I think it's definitely a different dimension. As I said, like, these people have used these plants to enter the spirit world. That's how they describe it, and that's exactly what it feels like. That's what it looks like. You know, it's happening within your mind, like, you know, it's happening.
But the visuals specifically, are you familiar with
internal? They're internal, the visuals.
So they're not superimposed on reality on your vision?
No. Okay. You're lying there with your eyes closed, and it's happening as real.
Okay, so it's bright outside, but your eyes are closed.
During the ceremony? No,
but if the ceremony is during the night, but you were saying you were, like, tripping for 12 hours plus, or seeing visuals for 12 hours plus.
Yeah, the visuals, you know, the visuals will begin to wear off, you know. My visuals would probably begin to wear off at around 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. As it got bright, really, the visuals began to kind of begin to ease off or whatever, and then completely stop. But I'd still be still tripping, but not seeing them visuals. Like, you know, if you've ever taken any other psychedelics, like, you know, things seem like they're breathing and they're moving, and, you know, you can see kind of trails behind things, like, you know.
I've seen trails already. Yeah. I've written my name in front of me with my hand and things
so
like that.
They would be the visuals at that stage. Like, them visuals what I would call celestial visions. You see, in the shamanic culture, there's the upper realm of the gods and the divine, and then there's the lower realm of the spirit world, like, you know. So they break it up into three, like, you know. They say that there's the lower realm, the middle realm, which is the, you know, the reality we're in now, and then there's the divine realm, the upper realms of consciousness, like, you know.
So heaven and hell, essentially.
Heaven and hell, I guess, yeah.
Reality
Heaven and hell,
somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, so that's it. But the visuals of the heaven, like, so most of the times I drank and I was in the Maloka and in during the ceremony, it all seemed like I was all taking part in the lower realms, and then as soon as that personal healing would be done on me, it would go to the higher realms, and they would last for nearly to the point where at the end I was just, you know, glad for them to be over, like, you know. Glad for them to be over. I'd always go back and I'd sit on our hut and I'd have my music playing. I was like, like, what it seems is that you know, the music directs the visuals. Like, the music plays a big part in the visuals, like, you know.
Yeah.
So I'd always have my music, and, you know, back on the hut when I go back, like, you know, and it was always, you know, I guess it enhanced the experience, I suppose. But you know, if you kind of take what science is saying, as in that everything is a wave and a particle, that everything is energy that's just a wave and a particle, then what the shamans and that say is that what the Ikros and the music are doing is they're changing your vibration. We're all vibrating at a level, and that's, you know, that's what the wave and the particle is, like, you know, and you're a vibration. So what music is it's a sound, it's another vibration that's enhancing your vibration, it's lifting you up. And when you're on the psychedelic, it's lifting up the vibration of the experience, like, you know.
Yeah, so basically tuning into a different frequency, I suppose. Yeah,
frequencies, exactly.
Is it Terence McKenna that uses that analogy that we're radios of some description, or almost antennas that are...
Graham Hancock. Graham Hancock says
okay.
that, you know, Graham Hancock would say that what our brain is a radio receiver, a receiver of consciousness. So when you, something similar to what I suppose I was saying, like, when you take the psychedelic, you're changing the channel.
What the fuck was that?
There's the gods talking to you. When you take the psychedelic, it's like changing the channel. You're tuning into a new frequency.
Right. Are you a fan of Hancock?
I am a big fan of Graham Hancock. Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson, yeah, definitely.
Randall Carlson I like. Terence and Dennis McKenna, isn't it?
Yes.
I'm not overly familiar with. You've very kindly lent me Terence McKenna's book, Food for the Gods. I'm looking forward to get stuck into that.
Yeah, that as I said, that will tell you of all the different tribes and cultures that have used, you know, these plant medicines, and the way that we then in the West, it goes through even the drugs that we use in the West, like, you know, like obviously cocaine and different kind of things, heroin and different bits like that. And I guess his theories are we all wired to have these transcendent experiences? It's just we in the West are using the wrong drugs to get there. And, you know, when you take, you know, I guess the likes of cocaine and different kind of drugs, like it seems like you're chasing something that you never find. And maybe that's because the brain is wired to have this experience through psychoactive plants. And it knows itself, you know, when it's not getting the right drug. So we're in the West using the wrong drugs to try and have the experience that these tribes would have had, maybe, you know, over the last 5,000 or 10,000 years.
Yeah.
And that would be his theory on it. He would say that we are using the wrong drugs to have the transcendent experiences that, you know, we're wired to have.
And sorry, this is Hancock again, or
this would be Terence McKenna.
Sorry,
this would be Terence McKenna. Terence McKenna is an ethnobotanist, and so is Dennis. Dennis is highly into science. Dennis McKenna, so Terence is now dead, but Dennis is doing some amazing scientific work with all of these plant medicines. He's making a big push to get all these legalized as therapeutic.
Yeah,
That's what he believes. He believes they are medicines. He originally, you know, they believed in nothing, like, you know, they didn't believe in anything.
My very limited understanding of the McKennas is that they're bona fide scientists, but with
more so Dennis.
Okay.
Terence was was an ethnobotanist. Is that the word I'm thinking?
I'm not sure. What is that?
But it would be more into the science of plants and stuff like that.
Okay, but a scientist nonetheless.
He would be a scientist, yeah. But where Dennis is, would be considered the far greater of the scientists. Like, he is into neuroscience, he's into all of them different things. I'm not too sure now. He could be. What a lot of his work involves is where pharmaceutical companies would have sent him out, and I guess that's what Terence would have done as well, would have been where pharmaceutical companies would have sent him out into the Amazon to find different cures. To do, like every tablet we take, like every tablet you buy in the shop, whether it's paracetamol, whether it's Anodin, whatever the hell it is, like, they are all just literally chemical compounds of plants that we have found in the Amazon rainforest. That's what they are. We've structured. It's no different than LSD. What LSD is synthesized psilocybin. So we've literally taken these plants, we've understood how their molecular structure is made up, and we've then made that chemically.
Yeah.
So what I guess what a lot of people who would be into the plant medicines would say is that by doing that, you're losing, as you said earlier, you're distilling the effect, aren't you? Like, because it's done chemically and it's done in a lab. Like, but if these plants, like the shamans say, if each plant has a spirit in it, and the spirit is the healer, then you're losing the spirit of the plant by making it in a laboratory. And I've always found with LSD, anytime I've used LSD, I've had amazing experiences on LSD, but it's always felt chemically. It doesn't feel alive like an ayahuasca or a magic mushrooms ceremony feels. It always feels chemically. It feels like it's not alive, where the others are alive.
Is LSD synthesized psilocybin?
It's psilocybin or begins with mescaline. That's what it is. Sorry, LSD is synthesized mescaline, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
The mushrooms I've taken were all psilocybin.
Psilocybin cubensis, yeah.
Is there a difference, do you know, in the mescaline, in how it affects you? Or?
The mescaline would have been would be peyote. So what the Native American Indians would have used would have been a peyote. So that was their plant medicine and their entrance into the spirit world. I'm not so sure that it's as visual as the psilocybin. Now I've never done any of the. So how do you think of the
mescaline?
The mescaline, but the peyote. I've never done a peyote ceremony, so I'm not so sure how much visuals they are. I think the psilocybin would be much more visually based.
Right. It's funny. Are you familiar with the fly agaric mushroom?
The fly agaric mushroom, yeah.
Would you believe a massive one of them grew in my front garden a fortnight ago, over 3 or 4 days?
Yeah.
I had every intention of drying it and consuming it, but I made the fatal flaw of putting it in the hot press. And I'd say about 40 hours later, I came back and it was infested with maggots.
Right, yeah.
I have a video of it I can show you. Absolutely infested.
Yeah.
But
do you know like with like with Hinduism, they used the N-Dimethyltryptamine mushroom called soma. So an awful lot of the Hindu texts are some people say there's if you read the Upanishads, which is one of the scriptures of Hinduism, they talk about the soma plant. And if you've heard of in Greece, they know the Euclidean mysteries.
No.
The Euclidean mysteries would have been where the likes of Plato, a lot of the philosophers of that time, they would have went and they had these big ceremonies in Greece, but they would have been for the more upper class of the time, like I guess the aristocrats or whatever you'd like to call them, or whatever you like to call them. But you went and these were all ceremonies that were done. And they would have all been using psychoactive mushrooms. That was a part of this week-long ceremony that they done. There was different kind of things, and they said it was all about opening consciousness in a way. So as I say to you, we've used these plant medicines throughout history, throughout the world, even as with Greece, and you should definitely look that up, the Euclidean mysteries. And as I said, with Hinduism and Buddhism, there's massive talk of psychedelic use in each of them philosophies. So there is, like, soma is the plant, but they say soma was made up of a number of different psychoactive plants. But some of the studies they've done would say that they're Amanita muscaria mushrooms, and then other people would say it would be a brew like ayahuasca, but done in a different way, like, you know.
Yeah.
So we've used ways of altering our consciousness throughout history. Throughout history, it's been used.
Getting back to Graham Hancock.
Yeah.
Does he get more criticisms than the other men that we've mentioned?
Graham Hancock does, because he's not science. Anything Graham Hancock comes out with would be considered pseudoscience.
Yes, that's why I suppose I'm not a fan.
When you speak to, like, Graham Hancock has given multiple explanations of where he's gone to scientists and he's been saying, okay, science and different archaeology, different archaeologists and that, and has asked them the question, okay, so have you read any of his books, Fingerprints of the Gods?
No,
Fingerprints
I haven't.
1 and 2, absolutely incredible reads, and absolutely done to a point where it's nearly too much information and time, but he's done this so that he's shown everywhere he's getting his proof from, so that scientists can look at this and archaeologists can look at this and say, right, this is obviously where his line of thinking is coming from.
Yeah.
And he has been absolutely ridiculed on radio by different scientists and archaeologists, and then when he's approached them and he's asked them, okay, well, what part of my work do you most disagree with? And none of them have even read the book. None of them have read his books. None of them have read his theories. None of anything. But yet they've all told him he's wrong without reading any of his stuff. But Graham, with the way archaeology is going now, and the different technologies that we now have, the information that Graham Hancock was coming out with 30 years ago, where people were saying was absolute pseudoscience and bullshit, is all beginning to be proved right now. Like, you know, with the finding of Göbekli Tepe. Have you heard of Göbekli Tepe?
Yeah, I'm very familiar with it. Yeah,
Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. Like, you know, that was a stone monument. That site is bigger than the pyramids in Egypt, that was purposely buried 12,500 years ago.
Yeah, far earlier than we previously knew civilizations had
exactly, and
large towns there.
Exactly, and I guess Graham Hancock's theory on the whole thing is that 12,500 years ago, where we believed that was the beginning of our society, that where we became conscious beings and we began to have culture and all them kind of things, what Graham Hancock believes, and many other geologists, people along that, archaeologists, all of these people are now starting to come to the thinking of that 12,500 years ago there was a cataclysm on this planet that happened due to a meteor impact. And what that done was the society that was before then, when the meteor hit the planet 12,500 years ago, the ice sheets that were in North America at the time were 2 miles thick.
Yeah.
So the archaeologists would say, well, we've no evidence of a crater impact like we do in the Yucatan for when the dinosaurs were wiped out. Exactly. So what Graham Hancock is saying, and what a lot of these geologists and all are now starting to come to the conclusion of, is that the meteor would have hit the ice sheets in North America, causing instant floods. So massive floods that would have wiped out a massive proportion of people on the planet. You look at every culture, whether it's the Native American Indians, whether it's the Mazateks, the
they've
Incas,
all had their flood
they
myths,
all talk about flood myths, and they all have them as part of their history. So what Graham Hancock and them believe is that that's what happened. The meteor hit 12,500 years ago, caused massive flooding of the ice sheets, and what that was a rebooting of society. So our society had to begin again 12,500 years ago. It wasn't that's when we started. It was a rebooting of society, and that would be Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson's theory. And if you watch the podcast with Randall Carlson and Graham Hancock on Joe Rogan, it was the last one they done,
Michael Shermer,
and he by the end of it, you know, he again had not done his research, like, you know, and I just can't understand how you can come to debate men like these. And Randall Carlson has some amount of evidence. He's got amazing slideshows. He's travelled the length and breadth of the country.
But he doesn't get near the criticism that Carlson does, though.
That Graham Hancock.
Graham Hancock.
Yeah, I think, you know, because Graham Hancock is quite open about the fact that he's used ayahuasca, that he's used different psychedelics. And again, you have to remember, Graham Hancock is only ever a reporter.
Yes.
So he would have no science credentials, so he wouldn't. So for any scientist or any archaeologist to admit that he's right and they're wrong, you can only imagine why they'd be willing to destroy him in front of things. But only about a year ago, the Daily Mail and some of them other kind of papers done a whole kind of piece on Graham Hancock and said, you know, more or less saying, well, we've got this wrong and this is the evidence to support it. One of the big findings that are now starting to find, that the geologists are starting to find, is the nanodiamonds. They're finding nanodiamonds all over the world at the minute, and
from this impact.
And the reason they know it's at that impact is because it's under layers and layers of, you know, sedimentary rocks and different things like that, and they're able to age it.
Else, yeah.
So they're saying that 12,500 years ago. So that either means we had a nuclear explosion on this planet that was man-made, or we had the only other thing that could have caused them nanodiamonds is a meteor impact.
Yeah.
Which would obviously bring the radiation with it and would bring them kind of things with it. So Graham's theory is that we had a more advanced civilization than we're led to believe, like, you know. And if you listen to any of the tribes, if you listen to the Aboriginals in Australia, if you listen to the different tribes, the Buiti tribes in Africa, all of these things, they believe that society is cyclical, and, you know, as societies grow and evolve and all of them kind of things, when it begins to get out of hand, Mother Nature, they believe the planet is conscious in itself. So they believe that as we begin to destroy the planet, very much like we're kind of doing now, that Mother Nature sends a wake up call, and it's we reboot society. And what Graham Hancock's theory is that Göbekli Tepe was buried 12,500 years ago to warn us of these kind of incidents. And the same with the pyramids in Egypt. They would say that, you know, the technology that it must have taken to build them, like that was not built by, you know, primitive men with stone hammers and slaves, like, you know.
No, not by any means.
These are a direct mirror image of Orion's belt in the sky from 12,500 years ago. There's, I guess, you know, the thing is that with Graham Hancock and that, they've had geologists do carbon dating. Oh no, sorry, it's not carbon dating. On the Sphinx beside the pyramids, there's water erosion on the Sphinx that they're dating at the last time that there was water in Egypt that could have made them marks would have been, again, 12,500 years ago. So they're saying that all of this is kind of pointing to, as I said, a rebooting of our society, like, you know, and that there's massive evidence coming out to support this now, like, you know. And as I was saying, the tribes and all, they would say that, you know, cultures and that are cyclical, like, you know, that everything is cyclical.
Yeah. A lot of Graham Hancock's theories, I suppose, have it's come to light that he was right on a number of occasions.
Yeah, it seems to be.
But it's obviously not him that's making these findings. It's other people. It's the scientific community, basically, that are...
No, not really. No, he's doing the field work. Him and Randall Carlson are doing the field work. Like, you know, he's the one going round and he's looking at gathering all the evidence. And I guess as him and Randall Carlson would explain it is that they're doing the field work, but they're also taking the evidence from everybody else around,
but that's what
and
I mean.
They're putting it all together.
Their theories have been proven by other people who have been working independently.
Oh,
and doing
sorry,
their own
yeah,
thing.
yeah, yes,
and
yeah,
I think
they now are, yeah,
they now are. But the criticism that he gets is that he jumps the gun. Like, hypothetically, he may have theorized that Göbekli Tepe existed, but he just couldn't pinpoint it where it was, and he was pissing and moaning that people weren't basically taking him seriously. But then, as soon as it was discovered, no one is arguing the fact that it was discovered. But I think people are slow to give him credit for his theories because they're not. I suppose they're not backed up to the degree that they need to be before they're taken seriously.
But they kind of are now being backed up. Like
they are
as I
now,
said,
but
the
he wants,
science is now backing him up.
It is, but
But
he's
you
looking
have
for
to
credit
remember-
before the science is there.
No, to be honest, I think what Graham's biggest gripe is that they literally brought him on and they absolutely destroyed him on a show on BBC. They absolutely
Horizons did a show on him.
I'm not too sure the name of it now, but it was done about 20 years ago or so, and they absolutely destroyed his reputation. They belittled him in papers, they belittled him in magazines, they literally made fun of him. And I guess there's only so much of that you can take before you start to kind of say, well, guess what, I was right. Like, when you've been made an absolute, his career was on the line, like, and he was putting out their evidence that the scientists should have went to try and discover, was he right or was he wrong, and they literally just laughed in his face, like,
Was he not a bit cavalier with some of his kind of predictions and some of his theories? Granted, they may have turned to have been right.
yeah, but sure, I guess to change anything in the world, like, there always needs to be a maverick, doesn't there? Like, there needs to be somebody who's willing to push the boundaries, I suppose, and that's what Graham done, was push the boundaries, I think,
But for every one Graham Hancock you have that, gets proven right, you have God knows how many more who don't.
He was bringing science to do too, like, he had, what's his name? He had geologists and all, it wasn't that he was just coming there and saying, oh, this is the way I think it is, like,
Yeah.
He did have scientists who were doing proper science, there's guys, John Anthony West is an Egyptologist, and he has spent his life working on in Egypt on the pyramids and all of these things. God, I can't, for the life of me, can't think of the name of the geologist. The geologist, anyway, who was working in one of the top colleges over in America, who was the head geologist in the college, was coming out to agree with Graham Hancock's work. So he was bringing evidence. It wasn't that he was just rocking up there and he was just saying, "Oh, look, this is what I think happened," or whatever. Like,
I know
And
what
I think the main thing was they kept saying to him, "Well, there's no more evidence. There's no evidence other than the pyramids of any buildings of this structure being built anywhere." And then I think when Göbekli Tepe came to light, I guess he probably felt like he was, that he'd been proven right, like,
yeah,
and
been vindicated.
When you're vindicated, and when you've been absolutely ridiculed and absolutely made to be look like you're fucking mad in the head, like, I guess you are going to, you're definitely going to be a bit righteous about it, I think, aren't you? Like, like, and I suppose rightly so, but. Yeah, I find Graham's work fascinating. I like yourself, I would like Randall more because, I guess Randall is more of the scientific end of it. Like,
he's more level-headed.
Yeah,
for
exactly. But, but Graham is a reporter. He's not a scientist, I suppose.
True.
Like,
Very true.
Yeah, so, at the end of the day, he's going to want to sell books, and that's what Graham does as well. Like, so he is promoting, but he's passionate, I guess. Like, and it's, when you've been ridiculed for 20 years, like, I'm sure your passion would overboil at some stage when you're finally being proven right, like,
Oh yeah, it's bound to.
So it's bound to be, like, where I don't think Randall's had that pushback on him. I think because Randall was using so much science and using so much of that kind of stuff, I think he probably got more credit than Graham would have. So he probably doesn't feel the need to be, so kind of, I guess I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. Where Graham is a little brash about it now, like, where he kind of says, well, the evidence is now supporting what I'm saying. But I believe that that's only because there was such a backlash against him. And I think with Randall, he's never had that. Randall is only really coming into the fore of people now within the last 2 or 3 years, like, and never took the criticism that Graham Hancock took,
Oh yeah, like on a level of fame for good or for bad,
yeah.
Hancock would be far more well known.
Yeah.
Another guy that springs to mind, given the subject matter of spirituality and consciousness and gods and all that jazz, is Deepak Chopra.
Yeah.
I'd be very interested to know what you make of Deepak Chopra.
Yeah, I don't know, full of shit, I think.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah,
I was kind of half afraid of you too. Oh, I've a picture of him on the wall or something.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I have him tattooed on my ankle, but no, fuck yeah. Look, again, he means well. He definitely means well, and he's definitely doing. As I've said before, I believe in duality in everything. I believe everything has its good and its bad, and he's brought a lot of people to meditation. He's brought a lot of people to
Certainly
yoga.
has.
He's awakened a lot of people to spirit. If you're helping people find spirit, then it doesn't matter whether you're full of shit or not. Like, as long as you're leading them to a place where they then begin to question things, and as long as he doesn't become their god, like, that's the thing. What sometimes somebody like that can open the door for people, and that's probably what he's done for a lot of people. He's opened the door, and a lot of people will then begin to see, okay, well, look, maybe 30% of the stuff he's talking about is good, like the meditation and the yoga and maybe all of that, and the other 70% is bullshit, but they'll find their own path on from there then, I would imagine. So I think there's good and bad in everything, like.
And is there anyone else that springs to mind that you'd like to? Is there anyone out there that you wish was more famous than they were?
Alan Watts.
There's a lad
Alan
that
Watts.
name just keeps coming at me and
Alan
at me and at
Watts,
me, and
yeah.
I don't know anything about him.
Alan Watts, he would have been, I think in and around the 70s and maybe the 80s or whatever. More likely the 70s, I'd say. But he went over to the likes of India and Burma and all of these places, and he studied the Eastern philosophies. And what he done was he translated the Eastern philosophies for dummies like ourselves to try and understand, I suppose.
Yeah. And sorry, was he American English or?
He was English.
Okay.
He was English, right? And he would have went over there and he studied and became a Zen master. He studied Buddhism. He studied Hinduism, Taoism. All the isms, I guess, really.
And what was he before he left? Was he like a teenager?
I think
was
he could have
a
been a
working
teacher.
man?
I'm not so
Okay.
sure. He began. So I think a lot of what changed him was LSD. I think he had some LSD experiences, and what he then done was it sent him on a path, and the path back then seemed to bring you to India, where I guess the path now seems to bring you to the Amazon jungle, like, but he went out to India and he went and studied all the different philosophies, and he is probably the person who's best translated them philosophies into English for us. Like, you can YouTube his stuff, Alan Watts. Some of it's absolutely beautiful, like, absolutely, like.
Yeah, because it has come
I
up
couldn't
on my.
recommend him enough.
He has come up repeatedly on my feeds, but
It's him that gave me that, that says that line, that what you are is God playing a game of hide and seek with himself.
Okay,
That's
right.
where I heard that, and I, that's what's kind of made me, I definitely love that saying. I'll always remember him for that, I guess, like, but he would talk about the soul and reincarnation, and he's translated all them philosophies that have incredible wisdom in them, absolutely incredible wisdom in them, like, if you can cut through the bullshit, and that's what he seemed to have done.
And why isn't he more famous than he is? Is he dead?
He's dead now. He died, yeah. I'm not too sure how he died or that now, but he died, I'm not sure, again, a good while longer than I've been looking at this kind of thing, I suppose. So he's been dead since I found him, but I found him through, well, I guess the internet is only in its infancy, like, so it's only now really that we're beginning, it's only now that you can literally pick your phone out and pick Alan Watts. It used to be through books, and it used to be through all of these other things that we used to have to get our information from these people, but now everything's at the click of a finger, isn't it, like, and more people are starting to find their ways to Alan Watts. Ram Dass is another guy.
That's a name that's not familiar now. Ram Dass.
Rupert Albert was his name, I think. Rupert Albert was his name. He was one of the big colleges over in America. He was a teacher there, so he was. And again, in and around the time he started using LSD, so he did, and he started they done the Good Friday experiment. Have you heard about the Good Friday experiment?
Was this with the prison?
It was himself and a guy called Timothy Leary, and
No, it was Peterson's predecessor, wasn't it?
Sorry?
Was that the guy? Oh, not predecessor. The guy that Jordan Peterson took over from at Harvard was Timothy Leary.
Yes. Well, I don't know. I'm not sure about that now, but I know at Harvard that's where Tim Leary was kind of, I guess he came out back in the 60s. He was the one who was telling America, that LSD was going to be, everyone needed to go and take LSD, and, down with the government. And I think his line was tune in, tune out or something. But they were like fucking head of these colleges, like, and they obviously got put out then or whatever. But Timothy Leary kind of went down one path with the psychedelics where he thought everybody should take them, and he thought, you know, crack your head open and everything will be all right, like, you know. But then Ram Dass, he kind of done. He through LSD and all that kind of found his way over towards Buddhism, and again he went over to India and studied with kind of gurus, and you know, Sri Rami Baba or something was the guru that he and many other people studied under, and he believed that they were holy men, like, you know. So he went, and he's still alive now, but they gave him the name then Ram Dass.
Sorry, Ram Dass is
Ram
still alive.
Dass is still alive, like,
Is there
so
a
he's
Netflix
came back.
documentary with
There
Ram Dass
probably
and
is,
Timothy
yeah,
Leary?
there probably would be. But the Good Friday study was a study that they done where they got, I think it was 20 people, and they gave 10 people a placebo, and they gave 10 people psilocybin mushrooms.
Okay.
And they and this was all done on obviously on Good Friday, but it was done in the basement of a church, and some of them were, I think, as far as I can recall, some of them would have been, you know, holy men and priests and blah blah blah. But the 10 people literally within an hour, the people who knew that they'd taken the placebo knew they'd taken the placebo, and the people who knew that they'd taken the psilocybin
knew they'd
they'd
given
taken
some.
psilocybin, right? But apparently, you know, and I think that's where I got that statistic from earlier, where they were saying 70% of the people that took the psilocybin said it was in the top 3 spiritual experiences of their life. And since then they've done a follow-up study, and the people, I think they got 7 out of the 10 that would have taken it, and to this day they would still maintain the same thing. They say that memory has lived with them, that spiritual experience has lived with them throughout their whole life. So these plants aren't something you take and a year later you forget about. They seem to be, you know, 30 years later, then people still, that experience is as fresh in their mind as the day it happened, and they still have the same feelings and beliefs about it, like, you know.
One thing that we haven't mentioned is microdosing. Have you experimented with that at all, or what are your thoughts on it?
I haven't, to be honest with you. If I'm doing psychedelics, I'm all in. Do you know what I mean? I think to be honest, you know, they do say with psychedelics, you know, to do higher doses less frequently is the way to do them. But with the microdosing, you're literally taking, and in Silicon Valley now, that's your iPhone. Steve Jobs was microdosing LSD when he found how to get the iPhone working, like, you know. There's different people, you know. You've heard of Francis Crick.
Yeah.
Francis Crick is the guy that found our DNA,
yeah.
decoded our DNA.
Watson
He was on
Crick,
LSD, so he was on LSD when he found whatever he needed to find to unlock that key or whatever. You know, so we've instances throughout history where big things have happened through people expanding their consciousness with these substances, like, you know. But the microdosing, I think, is something that you do. I think you take a very minute dose every 3 days.
Right.
Every 3 days. And apparently some people are finding it very good for depression, anxiety, you know. Again, it's more the psychological diseases and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah, of course.
Like back in the 60s, you know, as I was saying, like, LSD was used by psychologists, like, you know, when they were doing different experiments, or not experiments, when they were doing psychology with people, like, you know. So if you were going in and you were going up to the psychologist or whatever, you take a little bit of LSD, like, and you'll find, you know, when you're on these psychedelics, you open your heart, like back in the 90s when we were all out raving and stuff like that. Like, you used to take MDMA, like, we took MDMA and we met people in clubs that you never met, and you poured your life story out to them in an hour, like, you know.
Yeah.
So imagine what kind of a tool that is for somebody who's suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, who's unable to get that out, and they're taking this compound that's making them able to pour out their biggest fears and their biggest anxieties. That's where the healing happens, like, you know. Healing happens through conversation for a lot of these people, like, you know, because we all want to be listened to, and sometimes, you know, we don't feel comfortable talking about the things that, you know, most kind of make us sad, or most of our fears, like, you know. But with these compounds, that's gone. It's gone. You, as we said, you'll talk to a stranger in a club about, you know, the worst thing that's probably happened in your life, like, you know.
Yeah, it ties in nicely with or it's analogous, should I say, to what I said about my friend's mother who was suffering. I still can't think of the illness that she has, but the benefit that she's gotten from cannabis doesn't really have much to do with the cannabis itself as such. It's the fact that she's eating and she's sleeping.
Of course.
So,
but why
like
are
what
we
you were saying
denying
there-
people these? This is the problem. Why are we denying people these medicines?
well, why are we? I'll
Well,
throw
again,
the question
it's
back onto
it's
you.
the pharmaceutical companies, isn't it? Like, you know, because anybody can grow weed. Like, we can all grow weed in our back garden. You know, they can't make money off you. The pharmaceutical industry wants you on tablets. That's what it wants you on for all your life. If you've got depression, they give you a prescription and they want you on that for the rest of your life. There's no money to be made in curing people. There's only money to be made in keeping people at bay.
That's an argument that's often repeated, but if a pharmaceutical company came up with something that hypothetically cured cancer or cured a particular type of cancer,
Yeah.
if they released that, they would become the most reputable drug company in the world, and their sales would go through the fucking roof.
But their sales would only go through till you were cured. As soon as you're cured, you're not going to buy anything more.
But it's only one ailment. So if you can cure, for argument's sake, a
Yeah.
particular type of leukemia,
Yeah.
and you make all the papers worldwide as the company who's effectively cured cancer,
Yeah.
then if you've got a pain in your toe, you're going to buy the drug from the company that cured
Yeah,
cancer.
yeah.
Like,
No, I certainly understand that. But cancer is $1 billion industry worldwide every year. Cancer is $1 billion industry.
Oh,
and
very
it's
much
only
so.
$1 billion industry because, you know, we're not curing people. Because we're keeping people on medications and we're keeping people on, you know, we're putting plasters over wounds is what we're doing.
yeah, there's a great analogy. You get a painkiller for the stone in your shoe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what can we do?
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
talking about it is one thing.
there's a lot. Yeah, but you see, that's, you know, as I've already said to you, you've got the John Hopkins studies that are going on at the minute. You've got MAPS. You've got, as I said, the Aubrey Marcus has started up a group called I'm nearly sure the website's called The Cure Is Near. You know, where you can donate, where you can go on and you can see the science that's being done behind these, where you can donate money. You know, it's all about getting the clinical trials done, but these clinical trials need funding. And, you know, it's through people like Aubrey Marcus and through people like that, you know, the funding is coming for these things. Like, the psychedelic research, every year, the studies that are being done, they're literally... Every year, every seminar that's held is literally exploding with people. Scientists are coming to this now in a major rate, but it needs to be, there needs to be money, like everything, doesn't there? Like, there needs to be money to do the tests and to do the clinical trials and all of that kind of thing, you know. But as you said, like MAPS, if you want to Google MAPS, it'll bring up all the work they're doing, all the studies they're doing, all the tests and studies I've talked about there tonight will all be on it, like, you know.
Great work has and will be, fingers crossed, done. But for the likes of people listening, what can they do? Like, what can we do? Like, again, part of the whole point of having this podcast and this platform is to have these conversations and kind of spread awareness. So I suppose that's one important way.
Certainly, yeah.
Is there another way? I mean, would you wholesale recommend that anybody listening to this try DMT or try ayahuasca or LSD?
If you feel you're being called to that, like if you feel that I've been saying to you is resonating and you feel like you're being called to something like that, then as long as you can find somebody who's reputable, as I said to you, there's people out there that want to use this for good and bad. So as long as you find somebody who's reputable, who's done it before, who knows what they're doing, then, you know, and take it easy. Like, there's nobody saying, like, with psychedelics, a lot of the time it's dosage. You need to be with somebody who knows the right dose for these things. You know, the difference between a medicine and poison is dosage.
Yeah, very much so.
That's the difference. So you need to be with somebody who knows what they're doing. If you can find somebody who knows what they're doing and has done their research, who understands the whole setting, and the information is out there, the information is online. But we need to be very careful with these compounds. Like, we need to, you know, to understand what we're dealing with. We are dealing with a medicine, but, you know, I don't suggest that these things are done at parties, and I don't suggest that everyone just walks out there now and starts doing psychedelics. I'm certainly not saying that, like, you know. But if you feel, you know, a calling towards it, then it's do your research and go online and put in bad trips. And if you can read a couple of the bad trips, and if you think, fuck that, then don't do psychedelics. But if you can go on and you can read them and you say, okay, if that comes up, maybe I would hope to think I can deal with it. And again, that's why I say you do it with somebody who's experienced doing this, because they will be the ones to lead you through that. They will be ones to lead you through the hard times on a psychedelic. That's why you don't want to be doing these things at parties.
Yeah, well, I've first-hand experience of taking psilocybin, not with my set and setting right. And one thing that caught me out on what you mentioned earlier about it hitting you in waves, what I found was, I came up, I suppose, or it hit me, and it was hilarious and that was great, and then it kind of died down, and it was brilliant, and I felt joy and love and all the rest of it, and it went away, and then it came back, and I remember getting a little bit paranoid then, because every time I came down off it, I was like, okay, is that it over? Will I ever know if it's coming back or not? And what ended up happening then was I thought it was over, and I took them in Amsterdam and thought the experience was over, went for a stroll through the red light district, and bang,
right back into it.
The red light district at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night is no place to be.
Definitely not. And do you know what? I'm sure many a person has found that out over in Amsterdam, for sure. I've heard loads of them stories.
Another similar story would be with cannabis in its edible format, which is not far off a psychedelic.
In its edible form, You see, smoking and edible are very different things. They become different compounds.
Yes. But I think that a trap that a lot of people fall into in both mushrooms and edible cannabis is they take their dose and half an hour later they're like, I fucking don't feel anything. So they take the same amount again. Little did they know if they waited another hour or so, whatever the length of time would be, they would have come up.
And see, that's, again, as I said, that's the difference between a medicine and a poison. Dosage.
Absolutely.
Dosage with these things. But there's so much information now, as I said, through the likes of Maps, through the likes of Aubrey Marcus. Check out Aubrey Marcus's podcast. He's explaining all these things probably far better than I'm making the balls to do here tonight. But
is it the Aubrey Marcus podcast, or is
you
there a
can
name?
look up? There's the Aubrey Marcus podcast, but if you go to his website, he's done a couple of different documentaries one on the San Pedro, one on the ayahuasca. So there's documentaries you can watch, and I'm sure they're for free. I'm nearly sure they're for free, like on his website, So
Your blog then, is that online?
My blog was online. When I left Australia, I'd started up I had my own web page, but it was costing me money to have it up and running, and I'd done it just specifically just for the blog, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And when I'd left Australia, I'd been paying for it on my Australian card, but obviously then when I moved back home, my Australian cards and all got cancelled, so they never took the payment or whatever. Of course, then obviously my page was lost, so I couldn't really get back to doing it now. Anytime anything I would do with that blog now would be, if people would ask me, I'd email it to them, really, so. Okay,
well, I'll make sure to share it along with this podcast and hope to get this up
absolutely.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Have you other bodies of work aside from that specific blog, or?
I've written, I suppose, one or two things, but probably not. I don't know whether people would be too interested in them.
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised, especially after listening to this. Like, I mean,
they probably wouldn't be about. To be honest, they probably wouldn't be about the psychedelics really so much. They would be more. Yeah, they wouldn't be so much about the psychedelics. The blog is the only thing I've ever written based on the psychedelics I've done.
And what's the other work then?
I don't know, I guess maybe just different thoughts I've had over life, I suppose, and just different things like that, I guess.
But if somebody sat here and enjoyed, what are we in now? We're just coming up to 3 hours now, believe it or not.
Right,
if someone's been sitting or not sitting, because that's the beauty of podcasts, they're passive, you can do your own thing, driving or working.
In the gym.
But if there's someone out there that, likes the cut of your jib, I mean, there's 7 billion people in the world, there's a fraction of them that are into you.
Yeah, I'm sure I could email it to them or something, I suppose. If people were interested, I don't know.
Have you an email address? Would you put that?
Yeah, it's no bother, just my name, just Ivor McQuillan @gmail.com. So
can you spell that out if people?
It would be just IVOR and it's McQuillan McQuillan @gmail.com.
And that'll get you, so...
That'll get the blog, as we probably only got on to night 3 really of the ceremonies, didn't we really? But there's a whole other 2, we've only scratched the surface really of the ceremonies, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Well, I'd be keen to get you back.
Yeah, no, for sure. I definitely, if people were interested, I certainly would. Yeah, no, for sure.
Well, definitely, and I know for a fact that people will be interested, and I'm more than interested.
Maybe I'll be a bit more. Maybe I'll be a bit more kind of relaxed the next time.
You were perfectly relaxed. You were 100%.
Didn't feel like it at the start.
You breezed through it. I have to say, from the start to finish, it's been fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm keen to finish your ayahuasca story. I'm going to leave people hanging.
Yeah.
I'm going to get you back, and in the meantime, we're going to organise a trip to abroad.
Abroad, well, yeah, Holland, yeah.
We'll call it Holland.
Yeah.
A trip to Holland where you and me are going to do what?
Magic mushroom ceremony.
Okay.
Yeah, so a mushroom ceremony that's, hopefully going to shed a bit of light on this for you. You know, with the right set, the right setting, it's done in a proper ceremony. You're going to go in with the right intentions, and hopefully you're going to have the experience that I've shared with an awful lot of people. As I've said to you, I've had a lot of people call me a fucking hippie and all of them kind of things.
I well believe it.
They've all changed their tune very quickly, but
I certainly wouldn't call you a hippie. Certainly wouldn't. Not in a derogatory sense, at least.
I'd like to think I'm an explorer of consciousness. That's what if I had to define myself as something, it would be that.
I like that. I really do. And I'd encourage everyone to read the blog post that I'll put up. And I said to you, I think before the podcast started, you should narrate it.
Yeah.
Read it and just leave it as a recording, because I think a lot of people listening are going to be the same as myself. If you give me something that takes an hour to read, I'll read it within a month. You give me something that's 15 hours long and I'll have listened to it in 2 or 3 days. And I think most people are like that. So
I think that's, I think that's because, it's only over 5,000 years now that we're really reading and writing, and we've evolved over 200,000 years. We're visual animals, aren't we? Like, and hearing, we rely on the senses. Reading is only a new thing. Reading is only 5,000 years old within our evolutionary history. Is it
that even? Is it remotely that long?
If even that long. Well, the Upanishads from the Hindu religion, I think, have been written down over the last couple of thousand years. Maybe I could be mistaken on that, but I think we're reading reading and writing that long. Maybe not, though. Maybe it's not even that long. Either way, it's a very short. It's a very short
thousands
step
of years against probably tens of millions of years.
Exactly. I think that's why so many of us struggle to read, and can struggle to sit down and read a book, like.
Yeah, no, I think so. I heard recently, what was it? Was it a Roman Empire? Was it Caesar? Maybe. I can't remember, a historical figure within the last 1,000 odd years or so, or a couple of thousand years, was famous at the time for being able to read quietly.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I never realised that was ever a thing, that when people read first, it took us, I don't know how long, but it took us a certain period of time to actually read in our head. Inside. So it's no wonder that people struggle reading these days at all, never mind long form books or that. But the book Food for the Gods, Terence McKenna, I'll have read by the time
we're ready to go to Holland.
We're ready to go to Holland. I'll get you back on. We'll finish the story of your trip to Peru with Percy and co. And
you might not either, because you might have your story to tell, and my story mightn't mean as much afterwards.
Well, no, I'll do that to you. We'll finish it. And listen, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Thank you very much.
And I look forward to having you again. And give us that email address one last time, just for people who are interested.
It's just ivormcquillan@gmail.com.
Ivor, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I look forward to our next podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a blast. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.